Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Bradburn. Alongside me is Logan Camden, and it is March Madness, baby. Oh my God, Logan, how about that UConn Duke game? Does it get any better than that? Magic.
It really doesn't. Shooters shoot, man. There's some life lessons in there that you can take away from that game. Pressure bust pipes. What a finish, man.
Beautiful and profound as always, LC to Kid. In honor of March Madness, we're going to be doing a bracket of our own today. We're going to try out a new format and see if you guys like it. We are going to be doing a bracket of the last 64 NBA champions, and we are going to go all the way through and determine who is ultimately, effectively, the greatest team of all time. Now, I'm going to lay out the groundwork here for how we're going to get this done. First of all, in terms of seeding, that is done by these teams' records that season across the regular season and playoffs combined. So ideally, a little bit of calibration there for teams that maybe weren't going full throttle in the regular season, but really dominated in the playoffs. I wanted to do it that way so we would have some sort of objective seeding because Logan and I are going to be the ones picking these games. So if I do the seeding and then I also pick the games, that doesn't really work. So that's how the seeding is done. So nobody crash out and say, oh my God, you badly underseeded this team. It wasn't me. It was the freaking formula. It was the freaking algorithm. And other than that, it's pretty straightforward. We're going to go through, we're going to pick all of these games, but the way in which we are doing that is, as we always do, judging relative to era, which team was better, which champion was more dominant within the context of their time. We're not envisioning a hypothetical matchup between these two teams because although that can be kind of fun, it just doesn't really work. These teams were built in a specific time for a specific context with a specific set of rules and basketball philosophies and certain levels of basketball talent available. People always like to do the, oh my God, well, if the 2001 Lakers played the 2017 Warriors, how the hell is Draymond guarding Shaq? But then it's well, how the hell is Shaq going to guard all these dudes in space when they go death line at 5 out? And the reality is, those two teams were just built for completely different NBAs. And so those sort of cross comparisons aren't really the most useful measure of greatness here. So we're not really going to go into that. Other than that, this is going to be a beautiful collaboration. Logan and I are going to go through this bracket together. We are going to try to come to a consensus on every pick that we can. If we disagree, we'll kind of argue it out, see if one of us can convince the other. But if we can't, if we reach a true standstill stalemate, I have final say on the top half of the bracket. So if we disagree and we can't come to an agreement, I will put my foot down and say, okay, this team advances on the top half. Logan has final say on the bottom half. So you could say, I'm the top, Logan's the bottom. Other than that, anything you want to add, Logan, before we get into this?
No, I'm super excited. Well said.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so let's get into this bracket. Our first matchup, we have the number 1 overall seed, 1996 Bulls, going up against the 16 seed in their section, the 1978 Bullets. Logan, you got anything spicy for us here?
Not at all. I mean, shocker. I'm going to take the highest seed. I think the 78 Bullets are one of the weaker teams in this bracket, and I mean, this is the 72-10 Bulls. They take down 2 top 5 defenses in Miami and the Knicks in the first 2 rounds, and they beat 2 60-win teams in the Magic and the Sonics in the conference finals and the finals. The Sonics were the number 2 defense in the NBA that year, all, of course, to the 96 Bulls, and they dominated the regular season and the playoffs. They go 15-3 in the playoffs. This one is a pretty simple no-brainer.
Pretty good, man. Also, I do think the 78 Bullets are properly seeded as the dead last seed in this bracket. I love them. I love Wes Unseld finally getting himself a ring. Shout out to Elvin Hayes and Bobby Dandridge and the boys. Don't forget about Greavy. Don't forget about Tom Henderson. But 44-win team, genuinely pretty much average on both sides of the ball. A better defense, but one of the weaker offenses to ever win the title for sure. And then even in this playoff field, struggled in a couple of these series, ended up going 7 in the finals against a Sonics team that would win the next year, but in their own right was a very, very mediocre NBA Finals team. This is sort of the epitome of the 70s era of parity, if you will, where it did feel for a time like we were getting a number of mediocre champs. So that's a pretty easy one. The 96 Bulls advance. Okay, how about this matchup, Logan? The 8-seeded 1990 Pistons versus the 9-seeded 01 Lakers.
Yeah, this is one of the most interesting battles in the first round because I can hear an argument for both of these teams respectively. And this kind of goes back to what you were talking about with the seeding issues in terms of being a middling kind of regular season team, but being a dominant playoff champion. The 0-1 Lakers lose one game en route to winning the championship this season. It's that first game that AI wins in the NBA Finals that the Sixers get. They have an immaculate resume, and the regular season numbers don't do them justice. They were the number 2 offense in the regular season, but they were just the number 21 defense in the playoffs. They turned that around, and they are dominant on both ends of the floor. And they cruise past some really good teams in the playoffs, man. The 50-win Trailblazers, the 55-win Kings, the 58-win Spurs, who had just won a title 2 seasons previous, and then they knock off the 56-win 76ers. I think I'd have to hear a really compelling case to get the 90 Pistons. I mean, they're really balanced, but this is one of the most dominant playoff runs by a team, I think, in NBA history. So I'm leaning towards the 2001 Lakers.
Yeah, I actually don't really think it's even a conversation. Like, shout out to the bad boy Pistons. This is definitely the weaker of their 2 title teams. Still a very good team, but one of the weaker offenses to win the title, and that's where they kind of take a step back from the previous season. Still great defense, as you said. Really good depth and balance on this team. But the 2001 Lakers are just very clearly the most underseeded team by this format. Well, maybe there's one other team you could argue is as underseeded, but I just don't really care that much about the fact that they were only a 56-win team in the regular season. So much of that to me is just due to really effort on the defensive end. Like, this was the number 1 defense the year before this. This was the number 1 playoff defense. And so for so long, we talked about this precedent of, you have to be a top 10 defense, or you pretty much have to be a top 10 team on both sides of the ball to win the title. And the 2001 Lakers were the exception to that because, again, they just did not care about the defensive end in the regular season. But once you get to the playoffs, I mean, we are talking about absolute apex Shaq. We are talking about a version of Kobe who had ascended from the previous season when he was more inconsistent and is now, like, very clearly one of the 5 best players on the planet. Derek Fisher missed a lot of time in the regular season, but he was much better this time around than he was the previous season. Like, even good role players on this team. Rick Fox was good this year. You bring in Horace Grant, but it ultimately comes down to Kobe and Shaq at their absolute best. Like, easily the number 1 playoff offense and defense. They may be the 9 seed in this section. They are arguably like a top 5 team in the history of this game because when they turned it on, when they cared, they were one of the most unstoppable that we have ever seen. So we agree the 0-1 Lakers advance. Now, Logan, we have the 2000 Lakers, the previous season, up against the 1994 Rockets. Who do you like here?
I'm so disappointed that this is where the 1994 Rockets end up in our bracket against a team like this, just because I'm going to take the Lakers in this one, and I think this is such a good team, especially with what, Hakeem does to Patrick Ewing in the NBA Finals. He holds him to under 19 points per game on 36% from the field, 39% true shooting. I want to give a big shout out to Derek Harper for keeping the Knicks alive in this series. 16 points per game on 59% true shooting was the most efficient guy. Him and John Starks were doing a lot of heavy lifting in that series. I just couldn't go against the 2000 Lakers. They were such a dominant regular season team. They struggled a little bit more than the 0-1 Lakers in the playoffs. They go 15-8 overall in the playoffs. And I think it's important to remember that the 2000 Lakers almost got bounced in the Western Conference Finals by the Portland Trailblazers. They end up winning by 5 points in that Game 7, but going into the fourth quarter, they trailed by 13 points before outscoring the Blazers 31-13 in the final frame. You've got 18 points from Kobe and Shaq in that fourth quarter of the Game 7, and then they advance to the NBA Finals where Shaq has one of the most dominant NBA Finals ever, going for 38, 17, and 2 against the Pacers on 57.6% true shooting with 3.7 steals per game. So I have a real soft spot in my heart for the 90s Rockets and for Hakeem, but I just think that I think the Lakers' resume is a little bit more impressive.
Definitely. This is honestly a pretty easy one for me. Even though, like you said, the 2000 Lakers had a bumpy path in the playoffs. They were very much in danger. They even went to a decisive game against the Kings in the first round. Like, great regular season team, but the 2001 Lakers were completely a level up from this team because, again, Kobe had taken a leap. A guy like Derek Fisher had taken a meaningful leap. Nevertheless, you still have utterly dominant Shaq at this point. You do have a more up and down Kobe, who was like 21, 4-4 in the playoffs in this run, slightly negative true shooting percentage, famously not so good in the finals, but this version of Shaq and still a significantly better supporting cast around him than what Hakeem had in 94. Like, the 94 Rockets are one of the great carry jobs in NBA history by Hakeem, but just in terms of the overall talent, they really don't stack up. I mean, they didn't have anybody like approaching all-star level alongside him on that team. Shout out Otis Thorpe and the boys, and shout out Mad Max, but like, it's just really, really impressive that Hakeem was able to get that team to the title. They were a dead average offense that year, though. Like, they went 7 in the playoffs twice. Overall, the metrics for them, definitely one of the weaker champions that we do have in this bracket. So definitely give me the 2000 Lakers to advance here. Now, Logan, we're staying in the late 90s, early 2000s range, and with some Kobe Bryant Lakers teams. Now we've got the 99 Spurs, who are your 5 seed here, against the 12 seed 2010 Lakers.
I really love the 99 Spurs and the story around them. I think that people kind of just like to gloss over the fact that Tim Duncan was in his second season at 23 years old, and it was not even close. That, like, I mean, he is by far the best player on this team. Shout out David Robinson for still being there and being impactful, and them forming the league's best defense that season. They were number 1 in defensive rating. Obviously, for context, it's important to mention that this is the lockout-shortened season, too. They go 37 and 13. But, I mean, there's really only 2 other comparisons to what Duncan did in this second season in terms of age and being the best player on a championship team. And I'd say even for other guys, the water is a little bit more muddied, where you do have a Magic Johnson at 20 and 22 years old in 1980 and 1982, but he also still has a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, right? Dwayne Wade in 2006 is a year older than Duncan. I would say he is the best player on that team, but he's still even a little older. I mean, what Duncan is doing, especially, too, with just David Robinson is his running mate. I mean, there's not a ton of really high-end talent down the rest of this Spurs roster, and that is what I think is so just incredibly impressive about the 99 Spurs and how dominant Tim Duncan was immediately coming out of college. This one's close to me, and really it's close just because I think of the difference in calibers of the playoff competition that these teams have to go through. And I don't know how much to hold that against San Antonio. They sweep a good Lakers team with Shaq, a 31-19 squad. They beat a really good Blazers squad. They sweep them. They go 35-15. But obviously in the finals, they take down a very lackluster 8-seeded Knicks squad. And I don't know how much of that I should hold against San Antonio. I mean, you can only play the people in front of you. And then for the Lakers, I mean, their path, it's a lot harder, right? The 99 Spurs go 15-2 in the playoffs. The Lakers go 16-7. But it's way more impressive. They take down the up-and-coming Thunder in 6 games. They sweep the 53-win Jazz. They take down a great Suns team in 6 games. And then they take the Celtics down in the NBA Finals in 7. Damn, I'm almost 50-50 in this one. I think I lean the 99 Spurs because they were the number 1 defense in basketball that year, and I think they were just they were the more dominant team end-to-end that season, but I would hear a case for the 2010 Lakers considering that path is so impressive and was so difficult.
Yeah, I think that this is a pretty close one, but I do definitely lean on the 99 Spurs. I think that's a team that gets underrated because of the lockout shortened season. And then I think also because that was sort of the only truly dominant iteration that they had while David Robinson was still like star level, right? He's hanging on for dear life with the 03 team. But this is when, although he obviously was not at his peak and was really in a scaled down offensive role, he was still one of the greatest defensive players ever, and he and Tim Duncan formed the greatest rim protection interior defensive duo ever. And so they're just a sneaky, dominant team all around, like one of the very greatest defenses ever. We know that. The 7th best relative defense of the play-by-play era. But as you mentioned, even though the playoff path is pretty easy, really dominant playoff run, 22nd all-time in net rating if you look at the regular season and playoffs combined. Much, much better than the Lakers in that category. Lakers were only 7th that season in net rating in the regular season. Not even a top 10 offense that year, but definitely a team that did get better in the playoffs. I think that's where their experience came through in a big way, and I think that's where Kobe was absolutely at his best, as we've talked about in this sort of 08 to 2010 run. His playoff scoring specifically is some of the most impressive that we've ever seen, but I still think the Spurs were just more dominant. I think I will take that like truly all-time great top 10 we've ever seen sort of defense over a Lakers team that was not their best offensively, right? Like the 09 Lakers were just a team that had more firepower on that side of the ball, and so they could reach higher heights overall. I think once you get to 2010, it gets a little bit harder for this team. It gets a little bit uglier. That series against the Celtics in the final was an absolute slogfest and a grind, and they got through it. And you're right, like the Spurs didn't have to face a great team en route to the title, but I do think they were the great team in the NBA that season. I think they just separated more from the pack. So I'm saying 99 Spurs here. Are you with that?
Definitely, yes.
So let's give them the nod, and now we move on to the 2 seed in this section, the 83 Sixers, going up against the 68 Celtics.
Yeah, this is one of the greatest teams in basketball history. I think they're going to be a team to reckon with potentially later in this bracket. I think they're top 10 all time. I mean, I love this squad. You mentioned it, Moses Malone put it on wax, but they go 12-1. The only game that they drop in the playoffs is to the a really solid Bucks squad in the second round. They go 65-17 during the regular season. They're top 5 on offense and defense. They're the number 1 net rating team in basketball, and what a great playoff run from all of their top dogs. Moses in the playoffs gives you 26 points and 16 boards a night with 3.4 stocks per game, over 5 offensive rebounds a night, over 9 free throw attempts per game. The Boston Strangler, Andrew Toney, gives you 19, 2, and 5 throughout the run, 22 points per game in both series versus the Bucks and the Lakers. A little bit of an older version of Dr. J is giving you complete value in every area of the court. 18, 8, and 3 with over 3 stocks per game as well. And then these guys are flanked by 2 really awesome contributors in guys like Mo Cheeks and Bobby Jones. I mean, I love this squad. I think they are going to have like I said, a real path and a real chance to go deep in this bracket. So shout out to 68 Celtics. I think they're a good champ. They're still, top 3 in defensive rating this season. They're top 3 in net rating as well. But I do think that the Sixers completely clear, and there are better versions of the 60 Celtics in this bracket.
Absolutely. Like, this is the point, really, the 68 and 69 Celtics, where you're kind of like, wow, they're still winning it all. Like, shout out Bill Russell for that. But this is actually the only time in Bill Russell's 13-year career that they were not the number 1 defense. And this year, they're only 3rd in net rating out of 12 teams. They win 54 games. The 69 team was even more of an underdog, but they sort of struggle through this playoff run. I mean, the offense was bad, and the defense just was not at the levels of the early mid-60s where it's like, yeah, we are the greatest defenses to ever play the game. It was still enough to get it done, but versus the dominance of the Sixers, I mean, I think a team that makes a strong argument for having one of the very best top 6s in NBA history, like, just a stacked team. So this is definitely a pretty easy clearing. Okay, how about, though, a much better Russell Celtics champion we have here in the 7-10 line, the 64 Celtics versus the 1970 Knicks. Who do you like here, Logan?
I can't lie to you. I'm very conflicted about this one. This is probably one of the closest battles, I think, in the first round. Basically just in the slight differences in the era, I mean, there are a few more teams, 5 now in the NBA, and I think that, the 70s Knicks clearly have a better relative offense, but I don't really know how much that matters considering that we always mention it with the Celtics, that great
Yeah.
defense is what led them and powered them to winning the title. They are 9th out of 9 teams in terms of offensive rating, but again, they are number 1 in defensive rating. They are number 1 in net rating. When you look at a team like the 70s Knicks, they're 5th out of 14 teams in offensive rating. They're number 1 in defensive rating. They're also number 1 in net rating. And there's an extra round for them to go in the playoffs. And so I think it's very evenly matched between these two teams. And the thing I'm struggling with is the fact that the Knicks had to go through an extra round of the playoffs. I think they took down a better team than anybody the 64 Celtics went through. That being said, I actually think I lean on the 64 Celtics. I'm very even between these two teams, but I think I very slightly lean Boston.
I think you got to go with the 64 Celtics. I really do like the 70 Knicks. I mean, by the way, in their own right, one of the greatest defenses to ever play the game. Like, there's levels to this. The 64 and 65 Celtics statistically basically like stand head and shoulders above every other defense to ever play this game, just in terms of the regular season and playoff dominance. But if you're talking top 20 defenses ever, like, I think the 70 Knicks find their way onto that list. Clyde Frazier, one of my favorite, most underrated throwback players, and had one of the great finals performances ever in Game 7, 36 points, 19 assists to send home the Lakers. And the Knicks were, I think, actually slightly favored in that series because the Lakers had a weird regular season and Wilt had been hurt a lot, and they only won like 48 games that year. But in terms of star power, I mean, that was advantage Lakers, and yet the Knicks ended up pulling through. That being said, even though, I mean, he has this incredible Game 7, I don't think we're looking at peak Clyde Frazier yet. Like, over the totality of this playoff run, I think there was still another level for him to go up. I think he's better in the 73 run, for example. You do have absolutely peak Willis Reed at this point, who is both regular season MVP and finals MVP. And this was a really good, balanced team for sure. But what the 64 Celtics could do to opposing offenses is just so ridiculous. When you're talking about posting like a -10 relative defensive rating, again, at this time, like, it didn't matter what they were doing offensively. They were the worst offense in the NBA, and they completely dominated the playoff field. I mean, they only dropped 2 games across their 2 playoff series, and those were up against the Royals with Oscar Robertson and the best offense in the NBA, shut them down. And then you go up against Wilt Chamberlain and the Warriors and shut them down. I just think when you consider the formula that was needed to win at this time in NBA history, the defensive dominance they had was so overwhelming that you got to give them the nod. And you're talking about a really good version of Sam Jones here, like, underratedly, really efficient scoring guard of this time who consistently kind of took things up a level in the playoffs. I'm going to go with the 64 Celtics here. I think this is arguably the best version of a team that won 11 titles in 13 years. And so I think you got to give them the nod because it matters when you win the title every year, essentially. Okay, now we got a modern matchup, Logan. The 3 seed in this section, 2015 Warriors, up against the 14 seed 2021 Bucks.
Yeah, I'm pretty concretely going to slide with the 2015 Warriors here. Yeah. I meant to say side. I'm just going to go with it. I think their path is definitely more impressive. They take down a 55-win Grizzlies team, a 56-win Rockets squad, and then obviously they take down the 53-win Cavs in the first iteration of the Warriors-Cavs NBA Finals matchups year in, year out. Steph is completely robbed of Finals MVP in that series. I still wholeheartedly believe that. And if you were going to take the 2021 Bucks, I think it would be on the laurels of Giannis and what he did in the NBA Finals, and that would have to be your argument. I don't think there's a strong one there just in terms of what these teams did end-to-end. I think the Warriors were just a much more dominant champion, but Giannis killed the Suns. I'll never forget, we were very early on in covering the playoffs and the finals, every single game, and I remember basically saying that the Bucks were cooked and that the Suns were going to run them out of the buildings after they went up 2-0 in that series, and then Giannis just flipped a switch and completely turned the tables of that series. He gives you 35, 13, and 5 on nearly 66% true shooting with 3 stocks per game in that finals. I mean, it's one of the greatest finals of all time. We all remember the 50-point closeout game from Giannis. So I want to give him his credit. I love this team. There was a lot of fun that year. Chris Middleton, Ball, and Drew Holiday still, towards the end of his prime. Like, this is a really solid Bucks team, but to be quite frank, I don't really think they hold a candle to the 2015 Warriors.
No, not at all. Like, shout out to Giannis. It's one of the great finals performances ever, but this just was not a dominant team. And I know there are some people who will look at the 2015 Warriors and say, oh, but they weren't totally ready yet, and they got lucky because Kyrie and Kevin Love got injured. And sure, they got lucky, but I also think this team was just flat out more dominant than they get credit for. Like, absolutely dominant on both sides of the ball. Steph's 2015 playoffs run was absurd. Like, he was so excellent, and that gets underrated because he didn't win finals MVP. So I get that some people will point to injuries with this team, but then it's like you look at the 2021 Bucks, and no disrespect, one of the most fortunate runs ever in terms of injuries to the field around them. Like, are they getting past that Nets team that they sneak by in 7, if not for injuries to both Kyrie and James Harden? And you have the Clippers, who a lot of people thought they were maybe the best team in the NBA, dealing with injuries out west, like Kawhi Leonard going down. It's just not really a great champion. Drew Holiday was so up and down offensively. Middleton had some really good moments, but he was also up and down offensively. And then after that, like, it just gets really rough offensively. Like, there just weren't many good offensive players. There weren't many dudes who could score the basketball on this team. You've got PJ Tucker in a big role. You've got like no bench ball handling. The shooting in the playoffs for them was really rough. They were 32% from deep. Drew Holiday in this playoff run, 48% true shooting. And again, he's like one of the 3 guys who actually could create something, who could do something offensively for this team. In terms of playoff offense, they are the worst team that we've seen win the title in the last couple decades. Awesome defense. I mean, the rim protection of Giannis and Brook Lopez was destructive. PJ Tucker was still a good defensive player, and that's what they hung their hat on. Like, they were an awesome defense. But considering that the path is pretty uninspiring and the offense really is one of the worst from a team that we've seen win the title, they are a lower tier champion. So yeah, this is pretty easily going to be the 2015 Warriors for me. Pretty dominant team up against a more underwhelming champion. How about the 6 seed 1981 Celtics up against the 11 seed 1993 Bulls?
This is a really interesting matchup to me for a lot of reasons. One, the 81 Celtics, both of these teams win 62 games. They both go 62-20. The thing that makes this so interesting to me, though, is the fact that we have maybe the most de facto finals of all time in the conference finals, with Boston taking on the 62-win 76ers in the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, mind you, this is a 80s Sixers team prior to them acquiring Moses Malone. So this is Dr. J, Daryl Dawkins, Bobby Jones, Andrew Toney, Mo Cheeks, Caldwell Jones, that kind of squad here. And so it's not them at the apex of their powers, but this is still a very good Sixers squad. It's ironic to me because inevitably this 81 Celtics team was going to play 140-42 team in the NBA Finals, no matter how they caught it up. If it was the Houston Rockets, led out by Moses, Calvin Murphy, and Robert Reed, they took down the Lakers 2-1 in a 3-game format in the first round. They took out Gervin's Spurs in 7. And then the Western Conference Finals was the 40-42 Rockets versus the 40-42 Kansas City Kings. I mean, what a battle. So, I mean, I think it's hilarious that the finals was either going to be the Rocket squad that got there or the Reggie King, Scott Weidman, Ernie Grunfeld, Otis Birdsong-led Kings. And the thing about I am going to go with the 93 Bulls, and the deciding factor for me is what MJ did in the NBA Finals against the 62-win Suns and Charles Barkley, giving you 41-9-6 on nearly 56% true shooting. It's the most points per game ever in a single NBA Finals. From Game 2 to Game 5, MJ gives you 42, 44, 55, and 41. What I do think is really interesting about the 93 Bulls run, though, is in the round previous, in the Eastern Conference Finals, when the Bulls take on the 60-win Knicks, they take them down in 6 games. MJ gives you 32, 6, and 7 on 52% true shooting versus the Knicks' number 1 defense. But if you exclude his 54-point outing, over the duration of this series, he gives you just 23 points per game on 46.7% true shooting. That's where I just do want to give some credit to some of the supporting cast in that series. Guys like Scottie Pippen, B.J. Armstrong, Horace Grant, and obviously MJ's playmaking for these guys too and setting them up for looks. But those guys were really efficient with their offense and their touches, and I think they deserve some credit for that series. I think the Bulls' run is a little bit overall more impressive with the caliber of teams they take down. They take 2 60-win teams down. Like I said, MJ having one of the most dominant finals series of all times matters to me. But this one is very close. I would hear an argument for the 81 Celtics, but I'm going to lean on the 93 Bulls.
Yeah, I'm going to take the 93 Bulls here as well. This one is relatively close, but I just don't think this Celtics team was near the level that they would reach once you're talking about 84 and especially 86, obviously. Larry was more inconsistent offensively. This is definitely not his best playoff run. He's got the 2 8-point games in the finals and had some turnover issues in this run. And the supporting talent wasn't what it would become. You don't have Dennis Johnson yet. You do still have Tiny Archibald, who was a good offensive player for sure. But McHale at this point was just a super young bench player for you. And then I look at the Bulls and I'm like, okay, maybe the metrics aren't as dominant as they were in 91 or 92, but I do think the team is every bit as scary. I mean, they're still an absolutely dominant offense and a really strong defense, and you have sort of the emergence of B.J. Armstrong this year as a really, really good player for you. So this is definitely going to be the 93 Bulls for me. It's not a clearing, but they do move me more. Okay, how about the number 1 seed in this next section, Logan? The 97 Bulls versus the 75 Warriors.
Yeah, this one is not particularly close to me. I think this is Atom Bomb versus Coughing Baby. Give me the 97 Bulls.
Damn near. Shout out to the 75 Warriors, a team that I have a lot of fondness for. Really, really great run from Rick Barry and some of my favorite role players. I always love bringing up the likes of Butch Beard, Clifford Ray. Shout out to young Jamal Wilkes. Wasn't even going by Jamal yet on this team, and he was really their second best player. But definitely one of the less talented champions we've seen. Although I will say the year after this, they were actually quite dominant in the regular season, and then they got upset. And this is a 48-win team up against a 69-win, absolutely dominant Bulls in the midst of another three-peat, so pretty easy. Okay, this is a fun one, Logan. We've got in the 8-9 matchup, the 84 Celtics against the 82 Lakers. We've got Bird and Magic. Who do you like here?
This one's close. I think I'm going to lean on the 84 Celtics. They have one more playoff round to go through. That matters a little bit to me. I think they beat better overall teams. Their takedown of the Knicks in the second round is impressive to me, too, just because of what a monster Bernard King was this season. BK in this run, coming into this series against Boston, gave Detroit 43 points a night on 64.4% true shooting. Minimum 10 games played, BK was one of 4 players to record 34 points per game on 57% from the field or higher in a playoff run, joining just 1970 and 1977 Kareem, 1964 Wilt, and then, of course, 84 BK in this run. So they take down a really good Knicks squad, then they beat a 50-win Bucks team and a 54-win Lakers squad. In the finals, I think they were a better overall defense than the Lakers squad, and so I slightly prefer them as a two-way team. But, I mean, the 82 Lakers have one of the most dominant playoff runs of all time. 2 sweeps, and then they only dropped 2 games in the finals to, again, a really good, about to reach their apex 58-win Sixers squad in the NBA Finals. So this could be a coin toss. I mean, I would easily hear an argument for the 82 Lakers, but I slightly prefer the 84 Celtics.
I agree. And part of it is, you do have the Celtics really starting to hit their peak form here. Like, this is the first year that we really get peak Larry Bird. And in this playoff run, he was giving you like 27, 11, and 6, and plus 6.5% relative true shooting. As you said, significantly better defensive team, just the more balanced team. Whereas the 82 Lakers, awesome offense, obviously, but not like the best Showtime Lakers offense. In fact, they weren't the number one offense in the NBA this regular season, which was kind of a rarity for them. And then just like a fringe top 10 level defense, as you said, the playoff run is really good. And this team was really balanced in terms of playoff scoring, especially. Like, you've got basically 5 guys between 17 to 20 points per game. You've got Kareem, who's volume is lower at this point. He's taken a bit of a step back from 1980 when he was still like absolute monster, best player in the world. Norm Nixon and Magic, they're doing the dual ball handler kind of 2-point guard kind of thing and playing with tons of pace. And you've got Jamal Wilkes, who was a really good sort of third scoring weapon for you. McAdoo as just a professional scorer at this point in his career. So, like, obviously tons of offensive talent, but you're not getting the best version of Kareem. You're not getting the best version of Magic yet. You're getting a team defense that was pretty so-so, and so I do end up slightly preferring the 84 Celtics like you, but this one is pretty close to a toss-up, and obviously we saw these teams consistently clash in this time for that very reason. Okay, we've got now the 4 seed 92 Bulls up against the 13 seed 66 Celtics. Who do you like here?
Yeah, I'm going to pretty easily slide with the 92 Bulls. I just think this is a dominant regular season team. And I mean, they didn't dominate the playoffs the way the regular season would indicate. They get pushed to 7 against the Knicks in the second round. They go to 6 against 2 really good teams of the 90s, 57-win Cavs in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then the Blazers in the finals. But they're the number 1 offense in basketball. They're the number 1 net team in basketball. They're top 5 defensively. I just think the 92 Bulls dominated in a way that the 66 Celtics didn't.
Yeah, I agree. And a top 10 team all time in terms of net rating when you combine the regular season and the playoffs. Better than that in terms of purely the regular season. This was a really excellent champ, so I'm also going to go with the 92 Bulls here. Like, just one of the greatest offenses in NBA history while also being an elite defense. It's tough to pass that up in this version of like real apex Michael Jordan. So I agree with you there. Okay, now we are into the 5 versus 12 matchup here. We've got the 85 Lakers against the 2019 Raptors.
Yeah, I'm pretty easily going to go with the 85 Lakers here. I think this is a good Raptors squad. And I mean, when I think about modern champions too, I love the 19 Raptors. Kawhi was unbelievable during this playoff run. And I just think the totality of the depth and impactful players that the Raptors had up and down the roster is really impressive. Like Siakam giving you 19 a night, Kyle Lowry, Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka still really impactful and important. Fred VanVleet, Danny Green, Norman Powell. Like, there are a lot of solid contributors and obviously guys that we get a lot better, guys that are, outside of their prime but still productive. I think the Raptors are a really good champion, but the 85 Lakers are a great champion and we're just much better end to end. So give me the 85 Lakers.
Yeah, the 2019 Raptors, obviously a very fun team. You've got Kawhi at like one of these super high scoring defensive wing peaks and a team that's really well built around him. Lots of 3-point shooting volume from the guards with Lowry and VanVleet, who had a really good finals for them, and a ton of defensive-minded guys, of course. This is one of the better championship defenses we've seen in recent memory. Not the most gifted offensive team, although they were good there. But like you said, it's just the 85 Lakers. Now we're talking about truly one of the absolute greatest offenses in the history of this game. And that's tough to pass up when you look at just the dominant form they were in and not really pushed in the playoffs whatsoever outside of the finals, going through a weaker Western Conference, but just such a great offense and definitely a good enough defense, like a pretty good team defense at this point. Now we're starting to get not quite peak Magic, but damn near. And you have a version of Kareem who like has an excellent final series where he wins finals MVP this time around. This is just a really great team. So you've got Worthy into the mix now. I got to go with the 85 Lakers as well. Okay. How about, Logan? Bit of a throwback matchup. We've got the 2 seed in this section, the 67 76ers up against the 77 Trailblazers.
This one's interesting because Bill Walton doesn't play the entire season for the 77 Blazers, and so that's not going to be fully reflected in their regular season record and the net ratings that they end up with. So I think that's important to mention when we're talking about this team.
Yeah.
That being said, I am going to go with the 67 Sixers. I just think this version of Wilt is at such an untouchable and all-time high level. Like, him finally figuring it out, he was just so far beyond anybody else in the league at the time, and it ended up in the team results as well. They're the number 1 offense in basketball, number 3 defense, at the number 1 net team in basketball. And, Wilt wasn't the leading scorer in the playoffs on the team that he led to a title. He was tied second in scoring with Chet Walker at 21.7 points per game, but it was the most efficient season of his career. He had a career-high field goal percentage at volume in the regular season. He had a career-high field goal percentage in the playoff run, the most assists per game in a playoff run for Wilt with 9. And he finally beat Bill Russell. They take down the 60-21 Celtics in 5 games. Obviously Bill still got his lick back. He won 2 in the next 2 seasons as player coach. But I think I would hear an argument if somebody wanted to make a cheeky Bill Walton one, but I am going to side on the 67 Sixers.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned just the Walton absence factor because, as we've talked about, like the 77 and 78 Blazers, truly an utterly dominant team when he was on the court, and truly a bad team when he was off the court. This year, including the playoffs, they were 58-26 in games that he played. They were 5-12 without him. And then the next season, they get off to the 50-10 start before he gets hurt and they fall apart down the stretch and go 8-14 without him that year. So I do think it's important to note that this team was better than the record would indicate. They were really an elite two-way team. I mean, they were 2nd in offensive rating, 5th in defensive rating, but I would say actually a better defense when push came to shove and Walton was the best defensive player in the NBA. I'd probably argue at this specific point in time, and just like a nice balanced team around him that I don't think gets enough credit, like Lionel Hollins. I love Mo Lucas, an all-star at this time. That being said, I think the 67 Philly team is one of the most underratedly dominant ever, like 68 wins. And you talk about balance, like so many good players, Billy Cunningham and Chet Walker, and like even Wally Jones, who's a little point guard out there shooting hook shots, and Luke Jackson, hoop grid legend, and the best version of Wilt. They're definitely going to have to advance for me. Really, really spectacular team. Okay, now we've got an interesting one, Logan. The 7 seed 1980 Lakers, the first championship iteration of the Showtime era, up against the 2018 Warriors, who, of course, were not the most dominant in the regular season, but they were the 2018 Warriors. Who do you like here?
I'm going to take the 2018 Warriors. Basketball has rarely been easier for a basketball team, but you can't forget the fact that this team was down 11 in Game 7 to start the second half of the Western Conference Finals. Like, the Houston Rockets really did have this team on the ropes, and I just want to shout them out. I mean, that is the closest and basically the only real threat that the 2018 Warriors encountered along the way. Took out the Spurs in 5, the Pelicans in 5, go to 7 against the Rockets. They win that game by 9, and then they just dog a depleted and overmatched Cavaliers team. They sweep them in the finals. So the regular season certainly doesn't do this team justice. And kind of like we said for the 60s Celtics, another 80s Celtics team too, I think that there are better versions of this Lakers team later in years. This is rookie magic. They put him at the 5 spot, closeout game. So this is a really good Lakers squad, but I mean, this is, to me, one of the greatest basketball teams of all time. So give me the 2018 Warriors.
I'd have to agree. And you talk about that sort of feeling of the de facto finals taking place in the conference finals. I don't think that's ever been more true than 2018, that 65-win Rockets team against the Warriors coming off of maybe the greatest season in NBA history. This team was not quite the 2017 team. Like, they did slip a little bit defensively, but most of that was just regular season effort. I mean, they were still the number one playoff defense and the number one playoff offense. And in terms of games that Steph played this year, they were 52-14 with a plus 10 net rating across the regular season and playoffs. So just the fact that he missed significant time hurt them in the regular season. I don't know how you could possibly turn down this combination of one of the absolute greatest offenses we've ever seen. I would argue the greatest collection of offensive talent we've ever seen, with a team that could also reach this really, really high defensive level. It matters that they almost got knocked out against the Rockets, and if not for a couple of fortunate breaks, I mean, the 27 straight missed threes, but of course, more significantly, Chris Paul getting hurt. Like, this team was vulnerable. They were not the 2017 Warriors, but they still had pretty much all that same talent, and they had, in my opinion, when you talk about like a simultaneous peak, the greatest duo in NBA history with this version of Steph and KD. So I also have to take them in an upset in terms of seeding, but I don't think an upset in terms of perception in this one. This is a really, really fun one, Logan. We've got a 3 versus 14 here. The 2024 Celtics against the 04 Pistons. The 04 Pistons, another team that I think is underseeded here because they only traded for Rasheed Wallace at the deadline, and I think they were a different team after they made that move.
They were, and that changed their outlook for the rest of the year. I mean, it helped them win the championship. I am going to go with the 2024 Celtics. I would hear an argument for the 04 Pistons, and I think the argument would be that they took down the more impressive teams in the conference finals and the NBA finals. The fact that they beat a really good 61-win Pacers team, and then they took down the Kobe Shaq Lakers. That would what it would have to rest on for me, because I understand that the 2024 Celtics run might look underwhelming. They don't beat a team that had more than 50 wins in the regular season, that team being the Mavericks that they topple. But my thing would be, we were there. We watched the Celtics all year long. They were a dominant team end-to-end that year, and the fact that maybe they had some quote-unquote lucky breaks or stars missed time in the playoffs doesn't matter all that much to me, because they won in such dominant fashion. They lost 3 games en route to the title. They went 16-3 in the playoffs. They went 64-18 in the regular season. They were a plus 11.6 net team. Like, I get that the run didn't have that kind of amazing big-time clash, that classic that you take away and remember, but they dominated end-to-end, and I'm not going to fault them too much for just beating the teams that were in front of them. So give me the... And I think, you know, this is relative to the era. The Celtics just lap the 04 Pistons as an offense. So give me the 2024 Celtics.
Oh my God. I mean, the 24 Celtics are one of the absolute greatest offenses ever, and the 04 Pistons are one of the absolute worst offenses to ever win the title. And they were in this little pocket of NBA history when you have teams like the Nets coming out of the East too in 02 and 03, who are also very, very defensive-minded, not good offensive teams, because it was sort of this slow, physical, defensively dictated period in NBA history. Nevertheless, I mean, there are certain limitations that come from just being such a mediocre offense, where I am super impressed by the Pistons. I mean, they were 17-5 down the stretch of the regular season after trading for Sheed, and they are overall in the year the number 5 relative defense of the play-by-play era. But in the games they had Sheed that regular season, they had a negative 13 relative defensive rating, which is unfathomable. I mean, that would be comfortably the greatest ever if sustained over an entire year. Better even than the 64-65 Celtics with Bill Russell. And of course, they beat the Lakers, which is one of the biggest upsets in finals history. So you acknowledge that this is one of the absolute greatest defenses we've ever seen. I think a top 2 defense of this century, along with the Thunder that we are watching right now over these last 2 years. But also, again, when your offense is that limited, like, you can go 7 against a Nets team that is not as inspiring. And so I just look at the 24 Celtics, and I get that there are people who will point at the injuries and Jason Tatum not having a pretty scoring playoff run, but man, like, okay, obviously the East around them was decimated by injuries. At the same time, like, Kristaps Porzingis, this absolute X-factor weapon for them, misses a vast majority of the playoffs, and they really just don't miss a beat. I think in terms of, like, a starting five. We have never seen a team with such complete excellence in terms of three-point shooting, where it's like everybody is such an effective spacer. You have elite pull-up three-point shooters, but you have so many guys who can just spray from the corners and the wings. And you just look at the talent on this team, and it's like Tatum, Brown as your big mismatch attacking forwards, and then Holiday and White as like your hard-nosed elite defensive guards who can play make and who can spray threes on you and do all the little things. And then the big duo of KP, who was this insane mismatch stacker, stretch big rim protector, versus Horford, who was this great switching center and high IQ passer and also a great shooter. And then like a sneaky little bench weapon like Peyton Pritchard. Sam Hauser was pretty good in this run. I just think like this is a great, great team. Are they quite as great as the metrics, which have them 6th all time in net rating in terms of regular season and playoffs combined? And they're the number 8 relative offense of all time. I don't know if I think they are that dominant, but regardless, you do have to acknowledge just how impressive that stuff is. And again, the playoff run impacted by injuries around them, but nevertheless, they were dominant. And when you pair it with such a dominant regular season, I'm like, what reason is there to believe that the Celtics were not far and away the best team in the NBA this season and a really, really strong champion? So I give them the nod as well. Okay, now we are looking at a throwback Celtics team. This is your 6 versus 11 in this section. The 65 Celtics against the iconic 2011 Mavericks.
I think I'm going to go to bat for the Mavs.
Okay.
I know this is a dominant... this is like the prime Celtics, right? My argument is basically just going to be the Mavericks had an all-time playoff run through, a cutthroat West. This is... a really good Brandon Roy-led Blazers team that they dispatch in 6 in the first round. They sweep the 57-win Lakers in the second round. They take down the young, up-and-coming 55-win Thunder, who would go to the finals the next season in 5 games. And then, what many consider to be one of the best upsets in finals history. Again, you can look at that through retrospect. I don't think that Heat team had the depth it needed, but they certainly had the star power, and they do away with them, a 58-win Heat team in 6 games. The Mavericks are number 8 in offensive rating, defensive rating, and net rating. I think they're one of the deepest modern teams ever. They've got all kinds of shooting, all kinds of defense, and then they've got Dirk at this just unreal level. I'm also at I could hear an argument for the 65 Celtics, certainly, just because they completely dominated the 60s. So I'm close to 50-50 here, but the playoff run is so damn impressive to me. And I'm not dogging on the Celtics, but they do go to a Game 7 that they win by 1 point against the 40 and 46ers.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where I'm going to hold the Celtics accountable just a little bit. And I know it's hard because the sample size is so much smaller. I have 2 more rounds of actual basketball due to the size of the league for the Mavericks, but I think it's one of the most impressive title runs against a really impressive stack of foes, man. So I am definitely biased. I have a soft spot in my heart for the 2011 Mavericks. I love this team, so I'm going to lean on their side.
This is really tricky. I'm honestly pretty conflicted about this because I do agree that the 2011 Mavs had the better playoff run. I also think that the Celtics very clearly had the more dominant regular season. And it is tricky. I do love that Mavs team. Just the number of positive contributors that they had. Really awesome. We talk about this often. It's an incredible, incredible playoff run from Dirk. But people also often make this all about Dirk. And it's no, the level of perimeter defense and playmaking and three-point shooting you're getting from Jason Kidd, what you're getting out of an excellent defender like Sean Marion, and the bench scoring punch of Jason Terry, and the elite
Tyson
rim
Chandler
protection and defensive
middle,
rebounding
man.
of Tyson Chandler, right? And JJ Barea clamping LeBron, and the shooting of Peja Stojakovic. All this, by the way, without Caron Butler, who was injured for the playoffs. It's a really good team. But then I do think it feels like, because of our modern bias towards offense, towards modern teams in general, you can really easily underrate that nobody was beating the 65 Celtics because they were just the greatest defense to ever walk the earth. They absolutely shut down every offense in front of them. Again, a -10 regular season relative defense, a -9.5 playoff relative defense. that formula was just basically unstoppable at this time. They go 62-18 in the regular season, like comfortably number one in the NBA in net rating that year. I think I have to go with the 65 Celtics because even though the playoff run isn't as impressive, in some ways it's harder to have as impressive a playoff run when you only have 2 rounds. If you look at the totality of the season, I do think they were the more dominant, better team within the context of their time.
See, that's where I go. I don't think the regular season could fully do Dallas justice because of how tough their schedule was that season, just because of how great the West was at this time. Like, I'm not dogging on Boston for being great in this era, but I would say with less, there's just so many more great teams in the league in 2011 than there were against Boston. I think it leans in them to dominating the regular season more, but I just think Dallas's playoff run is so impressive against so many great teams of this era. I don't know. That really matters to me.
Yeah, but it's like 8th in net rating in the regular season. Like you're saying, 8th on both sides of the ball. Like the defense was very good. It wasn't like elite. The offense was very good. I really like this Mavs team. Like I clearly think the playoff run matters a lot. And they are absolutely better than the regular season metrics. But then again, I think like the regular season is so dominant from the Celtics. And again, like they were winning every title around this. Like this is a stretch of them winning 8 straight NBA titles. And this was as good as they ever were, essentially. The 64 team is the only one that I would say is slightly better. I think as the top, as the guy who gets the tiebreaker in this section, and by the way, this is the first time it's coming into action. After this, we're into the bottom half, so you'll have the tiebreakers. I have to go for the 65 Celtics because, I mean, they've won 11 titles. Not all of those are included in this stretch, but I just feel like it's too easy for people to say, oh, but I want to acknowledge this team, I want to acknowledge that team, and then next thing you know, you look up and there's like 160 Celtics team that advanced to the second round, and I just don't think that's right. So I am going to put my foot in the ground and I'm going to say, sorry, Dirk, sorry, 2011 Mavs. We are respecting the greatest defense to ever play the game here, as I very often do with the Celtics. And also, I do think you got to give props to the supporting cast that Bill Russell did have around him at this point, because you do still have a really, really good version of Sam Jones, but you also have Hondo like really coming into his own at this point. And obviously, this is not a team that was ever going to be defined by their offense, but I mean, Sam Jones averaging like 29 a game in this playoff run, good depth on these teams. You still got an older Tommy Heinsohn who's giving you some solid production. Hondo certainly had like another level, another 2 levels to get to. He'd become more efficient and a better playmaker and a number of things, but I am going to go with the 65 Celtics here. Now, Logan, we're into the bottom half. We've got the number 1 seed in this section, the 2017 Warriors against the 95 Rockets.
I'm so disappointed this is how the bracket is going to land for the 95 Rockets.
You said that about both Rockets teams. You love the Rockets.
No, I mean, but this team's different. I feel like if this Rockets team had gotten a 6 to, I don't know, 13 kind of seed, like if they had ended up with that, because this is another team that the regular season metrics aren't going to do justice for because of the midseason trade for Clyde Drexler. They get 35 games in the regular season out of Clyde. The Blazers deal Drexler and Tracy Murray to Houston for Otis Thorpe and a 95 first-round pick. And you want to talk about impressive playoff runs. I mean, this is one of the greatest in NBA history. I mean, I think you could argue that this is the most impressive playoff run in terms of the caliber of teams that they defeated round in, round out ever. They take down the 60-win Jazz in the first round in 5 games. Then they take down a 59-win really, really good Suns team in 7 games. And they beat a 62-win David Robinson-led Spurs team in 6. And then, as we all know, Hakeem and the Rockets sweep the Orlando Magic in the NBA Finals. This Rockets team rocks. They just, unfortunately, have ran into a buzzsaw. You know, the 17 Warriors lost 1 game en route to that Finals. They went 16-1 in the playoffs. It's one of the most dominant teams in NBA history. So, unfortunately, we are going to have to take the Rockets behind the barn, but damn, that's a really good squad.
Yeah, definitely a little bit underseeded, I think, here, because if you're going to win the title as the 6th seed, you're probably going to have to do it while going through the toughest path in NBA playoff history. And like, I do think that's what the Rockets did, and that matters so much. I mean, beating 4 straight awesome teams is just something that nobody else has ever had to do quite like them. And it's interesting because like, it really didn't click with Clyde until the playoffs. Like, overall this year, they're only 32-25 in games with Clyde. In the regular season, they were 500 in games with Clyde. But ultimately, he did take this team up a level in terms of having like an actual other star offensive creator alongside Akeem who you could turn to. And I do really love how this team was built, like especially taking advantage of the shortened 3-point line. Like, they just put so much shooting around Akeem for this time. It's one of the things I really enjoy about watching the 95 finals. You've got two teams that can like actually really shoot it around their totally dominant post up big, but like having a stretch 4 like Robert Horry and having a really good 3-point shooter at this time like Kenny Smith and Mario Elie and Sam Cassell. Like, there were just a lot of dudes on this team who could make perimeter shots. Clyde, a little inconsistent there, but he was willing to take them. And so you pair that with a really good defense, but not the best Rockets defense, not Akeem's best defensively. Nevertheless, I mean, Akeem, just the level he was at as a scorer and a defender at this point was ridiculous, with more talent around him than the 94 team. I do think this team is better than the previous one. Still, though, you're going up against the 2017 Warriors. It's night, no conversation. Okay, now we've got the 8-9, the 07 Spurs, Logan, against the 62 Celtics.
Yeah, I'm going to take the 07 Spurs here. The Celtics were dominant in the regular season again. They win 60 games. They go 60-20. They were number 1 in net rating, number 1 in defensive rating again. They just struggled a little bit more in the playoffs. They go 8-6 overall across 2 rounds. They get pushed to 7 by the Warriors and the Lakers. And those 07 Spurs have a really dominant run end-to-end, 58-24 during the regular season. They're also number 1 in net rating. And they go 16-4 in the playoffs. They take down some really good teams, too. A 60-win Sun squad. In the second round, they take down a 50-win Jazz team. That's the shocking Jazz team that gets to the Western Conference Finals. And then they, just destroy the really young Cavs. But the difference in playoff runs are what does it for me. So I'm going to give this to the 07 Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, we come back to this idea of de facto finals. Probably the most prominent instance in which the de facto finals took place before even the conference finals, like 07 Suns Spurs. That was it. Those were the 2 best teams in the NBA. Of course, the controversy of the Robert Horry hip check, sending Steve Nash into the bench, and then you have the Suns players getting up off the bench and getting suspended. Like, I guess that's sort of the cloudiness around this run. And then they didn't really have to be a very good team outside of that, but I am still going to go with the 07 Spurs. This is an elite team defense and one of the better offenses that they had, a top 5 offense along with the number 2 defense in the NBA, and just really great versions of Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, which matters a lot. Really good role player contributions out of like Michael Finley, a version of Duncan who is still like quasi-peak, right? He's not at the level that he was at in 03 or what have you, but still like a really high-level volume post scorer, really good offensive rebounder, like good passer for the position, and still one of the greatest defensive players to ever play the game. So I do think, considering, like you said, the 62 team, even though I think that's the best version of Bill Russell ever, I think it's the best he was offensively, and he's leading the team to a cool -8.5 relative defensive rating that year, as he did. As you said, going 7 in both playoff rounds against a couple of relatively uninspiring opponents, like not great teams. I do think you have to give the nod to the Spurs, who pretty much just made light work of who was in front of them, and 29th all time in net rating. Like, another underrated great Spurs team. I think the 99 team and this team, probably because both of them faced like such, frankly, kind of shitty teams in the finals coming out of the East, they can get underrated for still being pretty strong champions overall. Okay, now, Logan, our first LeBron team. How about that? We've got the 4 seed 2013 Heat against the 13 seed 74 Celtics.
Yeah, I'm going to take the 2013 Heat here. This is an interesting Celtics squad. This is Dave Cowens a year after he wins MVP. This is Hondo leading the Celtics in regular season scoring and playoff scoring at 33 years old. This is a very good Boston squad, but I think the 2013 Heat team was just more dominant from start to finish, and two classic bangers of series in the Eastern Conference Finals versus a really good Pacers squad and an awesome Spurs team. The Spurs are great year in, year out. Obviously, this is the Ray Allen series. Hits the shot, sends it to Game 7. Miami gets it done, but they win 66 games in the regular season. They're number 2 in net rating in the playoffs. They go 16-7. I just think they were the more dominant team. So give me the 2013 Heat.
For sure. Best LeBron team ever. Like, probably the best version of LeBron. Obviously, that's a conversation you can have. This is the version that I would pick in terms of just two-way dominance, best ceiling-raising version of LeBron with a really good supporting cast around him. D-Wade had taken a bit of a step back, but the depth on this team was really good with Battier and Ray Allen and 27 straight wins that they ripped off. Like, shout out to the 74 Celtics. Ironically, as you said, I mean, they get this done the year after. They actually won 68 games in 1973, like one of the weirdest, super dominant seasons in NBA history that year, and they did not get it done in the playoffs that time. They do get it done in the playoffs in 74, but just one of the weaker champions here. Good, not dominant on either side of the ball, so definitely the 2013 Heat. Okay, how about, speaking of the 73 Celtics, they lost to the lower seed here. We have the 5 seed 2009 Lakers against the 12 seed 73 Knicks.
Yeah, this one's interesting. I mean, the 73 Knicks definitely have two heads on stakes that make it really interesting. I mean, taking down the 68-win Celtics and then taking down a 60-win Lakers squad in the NBA Finals. Those are two really impressive victories. I'm going to go with the 09 Lakers. They were a better regular season team in terms of net rating and record. And I think they have a very impressive playoff run as well. They take down a really good Rocket squad that pushes them to 7. They beat the Nuggets. I've never been a fan of those Nuggets mellow squads, but they take them down in the Western Conference Finals. And then they beat a very good Orlando Magic squad in the NBA Finals in 5 games, the Dwight Howard pace and space crew. Yeah, I could hear an argument for the 73 Knicks, but I'm going to go with the 09 Lakers.
Yeah, the 73 Knicks, very good team. Like you're hinting at, like not a team that was expected to, supposed to win another title, but very good. I do think you have a better version of Clyde Frazier at this point. Willis Reed has taken a pretty big step back, but you've got DeBusschere and you've got Bill Bradley and you've got an older version of Jerry Lucas and Earl the Pearl and Phil Jackson. And like, this is just a very smart, all-around, good two-way team, well-coached, lots of vets. I mean, lots of guys who had been there with the 70 team, really played well together, like good ball movement. So I like them. I do think the 09 Lakers, though, were a really great team. I mean, 65 wins in the regular season, and I think as good a version of Kobe Bryant as we've ever seen. Really, really good version of Pau Gasol. Really good version of Lamar Odom. I do love Ariza on this team. I like him more than Artest coming in the next year just because I think he was a better offensive player, right? More of a high feel kind of guy, better passer, better three-point shooter. And so this was a really, really, really good team. Always underrated.
Artest made the... I mean, Artest did make the 2, I think, biggest plays of that playoff run, though.
No, for sure. I mean, Artest was really good. Like, they swapped one really good two-way wing for another really good one. But I do think Ariza was so good in 09. But, yes, I mean, they won a title with both of them, both very good players in their roles. What I don't like is when people fucking, like, post the pictures of these teams and they're like, Kobe won the title with this team, man. And it's like, why are you trying to disparage? Like, these are really good teams,
This is a really good squad, actually, man.
Really good squad. So, I mean, big scoring load on Kobe's plate for sure. Like, he's the volume scorer for this team far and away, but just a lot of good players.
Beautiful brand of basketball to go back and watch, man. I mean, the triangle with Odom and Kobe and Pau, and I love this team. I've also got a soft spot for this team in my heart, man. But yeah, I think they take the cake here.
Really good on both sides of the ball. I agree. They do take the cake. Okay, now we've got the 2 seed in this section, the 71 Bucks against the 15-seeded 06 Heat.
Yeah, I think the 71 Bucks clear here. I mean, you've got a young, dominant, best player in the world version of Kareem. Big O comes over, and I I mean, they cruise 66-16 in the regular season, 12-2 in the playoffs. They only dropped 2 games in 3 series, 1 game to the Warriors, 1 game to the Lakers, and then they sweep the Bullets. I do want to give a shout out to what Dwayne Wade did in this playoff run and in the finals for the '06 Heat. I mean, overall in the playoffs, he gives you 28, 6-6 on over 57% true shooting, and then in the finals gives you 35, 8-4. What a classic! I mean, just torched the Dallas Mavericks. But the only argument that I would hear against this 71 Bucks team, and this is not going to come into play against the '06 Heat in this matchup, is the caliber of their opponents in the playoff run. The fact that they don't even take down a 50-win squad, but this is again one of the most dominant teams end-to-end in NBA history, regular season and playoffs included.
Yeah, and like, I just don't care because they were so utterly dominant end-to-end this year. Like, they're 4th all-time in net rating between the regular season and playoffs combined. Like, completely stand head and shoulders above really any team pre-merger, like at least in terms of those metrics, and one of the greatest relative offenses ever. Also an absolutely dominant defense, like the best defense in basketball. Nobody was stopping the 71 Bucks. Like, you were talking about some of the guys who in their second year were the best player on title teams, like Tim Duncan. You mentioned D Wade, who this very year, his 3rd season, was the best player, but like Kareem just being clearly the most dominant force on the planet, best player there was in year 2, absolutely just controlling both ends of the floor. So crazy impressive. And then you've got Oscar, still such a great playmaker. You've got Bobby Dandridge, still like a very good scoring, defensive, rebounding wing who had championship experience. Like, this team was on another level. I think they are maybe the most underrated ever, just because like they are one of the very greatest teams to ever play the game and don't get talked about a ton because they played in 1971. This is awesome, Logan. I didn't even realize we had this. In the 7-10, we have a Spurs on Spurs matchup. We've got the 14 Spurs versus the 05 Spurs.
I'm conflicted, man. I think I'm going to go with the '05 Spurs just because. Oh. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I just think that their defense that's an all-time defense, in my opinion. But I don't know. I mean, I'm at like 50-50. I mean, these are completely different versions of Spurs teams, right? You've got Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Bruce Bowen, that kind of iteration. You've got Tim Duncan towards the peak of his powers. And I mean, a couple of dominant finals performances from him in this stretch, if it's 03, if it's 05, if it's 07. And in 2014, you've got Kawhi in the frame, and this is an older version of Tim Duncan. He's much more solely responsible for being the defensive anchor and being that guy on that end, and you've still got older Tony Parker and Manu doing their thing offensively, and Kawhi does a lot of heavy lifting. I think I like the depth in the supporting cast and the completeness of the 2014 group, but I'm going to say, I mean, damn, that playoff run is so impressive. They take down a really great Thunder team. They take down an awesome Miami Heat team that had just won back-to-back finals. Mm-hmm. This one's tight, man. This is one of the tightest, I think, in the first round. I think I'm going to lean on the 05 Spurs just slightly, though.
All right, I'm going to try to convince you of the opposite. I mean, the 05 Spurs, absolutely dominant defense coming off of 04, the year in which they posted the best relative defensive rating in the play-by-play era before now this year's Thunder are actually on pace to break that record. But the difference in terms of the offensive potency to me is very real. Like the 2014 Spurs, dominant defense in their own right. I'm not going to say they were as good defensively as the 05 Spurs, but the level that they were at offensively, the shooting that they had on that team, the balance that they had on that team, the ball movement, the overall offensive IQ, while you're still getting like really good versions of Tony Parker in Manu Ginobili. Duncan absolutely has taken a big step back offensively, but like Parker and Manu are closer to the peak versions of themselves. And then some of the role players that you have here, like Danny Green, I mean, coming off of a ridiculous shooting run in 2013, but he's still spraying it in the 2014 playoffs. You got like almost 50% from three. Diaw was such a high field playmaker, such a good role player for this team. Even like the Bellinellis and the Patty Mills of the world, like when they came in, there were just so many really good offensive players on this team while they have this defensive formula of best wing defender on the planet in Kawhi with still such a stellar interior defender in Tim Duncan. And the path that they went through, man, like they just destroyed that Heat team. They just dismantled that Heat team. And I get it. Like that Heat team was not as good as they were in 2013, clearly. But coming off of back-to-back titles, like just the difference in terms of the oppressiveness of the finals, the 2014 Spurs making it look so easy against the back-to-back champ Heat versus like the 2005 Spurs still got it done in 7 against the Pistons, of course, but it was so ugly. It was so hard offensively. Duncan struggled so much offensively in that series. Offense always came much easier to the 2014 Spurs, while the defense was still really awesome.
I think I've been moved. Also,
yeah.
number one in assists per game, very high. I do think there's a major difference. The difference in offense and then the difficulty of the path. I think that's a very valid argument. So I'll jump on your side. I'll take the 2014 Spurs.
Like the 05 Spurs in that playoff run were 7th in offensive rating. And again, that was very much a defensive era. The 14 Spurs were the number one playoff offense that year. Like they were beautiful. Awesome
it's
offense.
the beautiful game.
It's a beautiful
Spurs.
game.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful game, and it's also just a fundamentally different NBA, right? Where there is so much more shooting, but the 05 Spurs were so much more still trying to play like that sort of style through the high post with Duncan a lot. And shout out to Manu for really saving their ass and somehow being like the one really good, efficient offensive player in that series that was such a slugfest against a really great Pistons defense. But I'm glad we land on the 2014 Spurs here. I think they were the more balanced, ultimately more dominant team, really good regular season metrics, and a really impressive playoff run. So I'm glad to see them win a round. Okay, now we've got the 3 seed here, the 2025 Thunder, last year's, versus the 76 Celtics.
Yeah, give me the 2025 Thunder. You guys have heard us glaze the Thunder and SGA enough times on here, and you can be underwhelmed by some aspects of their playoff run, certainly. Them going to 7 against the Nuggets, going to 7 against the Pacers in the finals, Hallie getting hurt. I mean, again, I just think there's a different level of dominance in comparison to a team like the 76 Celtics, who, all things considered, probably shouldn't have been there. I think the 76 Celtics are one of the weaker teams in this bracket.
Like, it just wasn't a good time for the NBA. Like, they beat 3 teams that won 40-something games. All of those series were, like, relatively close. They were 4th of 18 teams in net rating. Like, they were good, not great. They're still sort of hanging on with, like, much older Hondo at this point, and JoJo White wins Finals MVP this year. Like, I like this team. Shout out Charlie Scott. I always love bringing up Charlie Scott and Paul Silas, a couple guys who I really like, but no, this is not even remotely close. You're talking about one of the greatest defenses ever with one of the greatest guards ever versus a Celtics team that you're just kind of like, that's what happened in the mid-late 70s. Somebody had to win the title every year. They were that team that year. Okay, now we've got Logan in the 6-11 slot, the Last Dance 1998 Bulls against the 63 Celtics. Who do you like here?
I'm going to take the Last Dance Bulls here. This one's close. Again, the Celtics are doing their 60 Celtics thing. Last in offensive rating, number 1 in defensive rating and net rating. It's the similar case. I think the Bulls are the better two-way team. This is a dominant group that they knew it was on the line. And it's kind of ironic because it's kind of like all of the 90s Bulls teams are going to advance and a lot of the 60s Celtics teams are going to fall by the wayside. Yeah. But I think the Bulls are the better two-way team. This was a dominant group, and they knew it was at stake. Shout out to the Pacers for forcing them to 7 in the ECF, though.
Yeah, I mean, it was not easy for this Bulls team. Like, there is a real gap between the 96 and 97 Bulls and this team, most notably offensively. I mean, the 96 and 97 Bulls, I think, are 2 of the 7 best relative offenses ever. This team was 9th in offensive rating that season. So a big step back there, but the defense was still every bit as great. I mean, there's hardly a better defensive duo in NBA history than Scottie and Rodman, while also being flanked by MJ and Ron Harper. And like, they were just so great on that side of the ball. And even though, I mean, again, like, it was just harder. Like, these guys were not nearly the same athletically. MJ's efficiency wasn't nearly the same. Scotty, I mean, his efficiency and offensive volume was rough in the playoffs. Like, it didn't come easy to the 98 Bulls, but I still do think, I mean, I don't want to sell them short either, because in that playoff run, they were still third in offensive rating, second in defensive rating, better than a +8 net rating in the playoffs. And in the regular season, they were a 62-win team with like a +8 net rating as well. So I do still think they get the nod. And I do think like it's deserved that they have all these teams advancing and the 60 Celtics don't have as many, because what's so impressive about a lot of those 90s Bulls teams is like they're really dominant championship teams. 98, probably the least so. Like maybe 93 and 98, the last year of both three-peats, are the least convincing, but still pretty damn good. So we'll agree on that one. Okay, now we've got 116 in this section. The 72 Lakers get a chance to get revenge on the 69 Celtics, who beat the 69 Lakers in the finals. I mean, this is a no-brainer. It's a 116. Like, it's the 33 straight wins Lakers against a Celtics team that won 48 games. And again, it's like, how did they do it? Bill gets to go out on a high note. It was a big upset, them beating a much more talented Lakers team in 69. But by 72, I mean, the Lakers really had it in just a special way. It was a special team.
Yeah, I mean, shout out for the run that the 69 Celtics went on. They beat three really good teams, but this is not particularly close.
You got to shout out Gail Goodrich, man. Gail Goodrich was an absolute baller. And, I mean, you know how I feel about this team. Logan, Happy Hairston, and Jim McMillan. I mean, I love getting even a Leroy Ellis shout out in there. I do love the 72 Lakers, and they were just a much more dominant team. Okay, now we've got, a Lakers on Lakers matchup here. This is going to be in the 8-9. We've got the 88 Lakers against the 02 Lakers. Woohoo.
I think I'm going to go with the 02 Lakers. I just think I think they had a more dominant playoff run. One, they only dropped 4 games en route to the title. Shout out to the Kings for pushing them to 7 in a fucked up, rigged ass Game 7. David Stern certainly did not want that Sacramento-New Jersey matchup in the NBA Finals because it was going to tank revenue. I just think this is such a good blend of Kobe getting to the peak of his powers, Shaq still being one of the most dominant forces in the league, and I think it's reflected really in the playoff outcome. And then with this version of the Lakers, I think there's a lot of balance in this team. There's really good depth, a lot of really impactful players when it comes to the playoffs, but you know, Worthy is really good. Byron Scott is at an incredible level. You know, this is the season in which Worthy wins his finals MVP. You've got contributions from guys like A.C. Green, Michael Thompson, Michael Cooper. But when I look at the star power, I am just going to lean on Kobe and Shaq versus, Magic at near the peak of his powers, but with a depleted Kareem. So I'm going to lean on the 02 Lakers.
Yeah, and both teams really great offenses. I do think the 02 Lakers were the better defensive team. I do think, like you said, I mean, the role player contributions, like Ori, Fox, Fisher, all those guys were really quite good in the playoffs. That being said, I do really like the totality of this Lakers team and all the guys that you were shouting out. You've got a significantly diminished version of Kareem by this point, though. I do really like Worthy and Scott as like your secondary and tertiary scorers. But ultimately, I think more dominant playoff run from the 02 Lakers, more dominant by far duo at the top with still really good role player contributions, better defensive team. And like the 88 Lakers, it's a really good, tough, gutsy finals win against a really good Pistons team that would go on to win the next 2 titles. But then it's also like they did go 7 against a Mavs team that was good, not great. They did also go 7 against a Jazz team that was really not that good yet, that like hadn't started producing good offenses at this point. This was like the moment in time where really shout out Mark Eaton for making them such an elite defense, but Stockton and Malone were not yet like producing good offenses for the Jazz, and that went 7. So I just think more dominant from the 02 Lakers. This one's pretty close. Definitely, because the 88 Lakers were also a really good team. This is a proper sort of 8-9 toss-up But I agree with you for the 0-2 Lakers. Okay, now we've got the 4 seed 89 Pistons, speak of the devil, against the 13 seed 2023 Nuggets.
The 2023 Nuggets are one of the most interesting champs, I think, in NBA history now that, like, we can look back from a couple years ago, man. I mean, the fact that this team was 15th in defensive rating for the regular season and then managed to crank it up enough, they're so interesting, man. Like, I think I'm going to go with the 89 Pistons here. I just think end-to-end they were more dominant. And, I mean, this is an all-time run. Like, if you were going to make the case for the Nuggets, it would have to be Jokic destroyed everyone alongside with Jamal. Like, they were just unstoppable. And, I mean, they were. They go through some good defenses overall and some really good defensive personnel. If it's Jokic tearing through Gobert and then Anthony Davis in the Western Conference Finals and bam. But they don't beat a team that won more than 45 games in the regular season, and the Pistons were a better regular season team. They were a better net team, and they had a more dominant playoff run. Yeah. So I'm going to go with the 89 Pistons, but I just think the Nuggets, this 2023 Nuggets team, is one of the most interesting to kind of look back at with hindsight now.
Definitely underrated by the metrics because they were a different beast in that playoff run. I think Jokic had the greatest offensive playoff run in NBA history. The guy gave you 30, 13 and a half, and 9.5 on 65% true shooting while he faced arguably the 3 best defensive bigs on the planet at that time. I mean, Rudy Gobert, Anthony Davis, Bam Adebayo, and he just gave them all work, especially AD and especially Bam even more so, just did not have the size to contend with him. And like, I did really, really like this team. And I mean, KCP was so good in this run, the shooting and defense combo. And Jamal Murray obviously is probably the biggest swing factor, him going from regular season Jamal Murray to a guy who's giving you 26, 6, and 7 on good efficiency. And it's like, oh man, the Murray-Jokic 2-man game is like the greatest thing we've ever seen. And then you involve Aaron Gordon as a finisher in the dunker spot and MPJ as just this elite spot-up shooter. And they had good size and length defensively, so they were able to reach like a good level. This was a legitimately good playoff defense. They were 4th in playoff defensive rating while being comfortably number 1 in playoff offensive rating. In fact, they had the best raw offensive rating by a champion in the playoffs since the 87 Lakers. That's not relative offensive rating, but raw offensive rating. So really, really great offense. I mean, in the clutch, this team just felt inevitable. It's like they're going to get a good shot up every time. If it's a Jamal pull-up, if it's a Jokic post-up or a Jokic floater, or again, an MPJ spot-up 3 or Aaron Gordon in the dunker spot. Like, they were just such a machine. They didn't turn the ball over. They executed at such a high level. But I mean, it was a relatively easy playoff path. I think sometimes people can sort of like forget that, okay, the Lakers were red hot and they were a different team after the deadline and they'd been playing really good basketball. The Suns, a lot of people were like, oh yeah, they're going to win the title because they have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Chris Paul, and they didn't lose with all 3 of those guys on the court in the regular season. And then the Heat team, a lot of people were like, oh, that's the team of destiny. They beat the Bucks. They beat the Celtics. Like, they're coming. So yes, it was a lighter path, but I dislike when people just do the, oh, they didn't beat a 50-win team, because I think that lacks some context of why the teams they faced did get that deep in the playoffs. Nevertheless, the 89 Pistons just like sort of showed up and fucked up the NBA world. Like, they had been in the finals the year before, but they just took it to a different level. 63-win regular season and then dropping 2 playoff games. I mean, really just dominating a Celtics team that obviously was well past their best years, but nevertheless sort of just a symbolic changing of the guard kind of thing, although that really more so happened the year before in the Eastern Conference Finals. But this was sort of an exclamation point on that, and then handle the Bulls and just absolutely obliterate the Showtime Lakers, who had gone back-to-back. I think you got to go with the bad boy Pistons here. Great defense, really good offense. So just a stronger champion. All right, now we've got, this is a fun one, Logan. A little MJ LeBron, 5-12, 91 Bulls against the 2012 Heat.
Yeah, give me the 91 Bulls. Speaking of passing the torch, changing of the guard, this is really when the MJ era kicks in. This is one of the most dominant playoff runs of all time by an individual. This is one of the greatest finals performances ever by an individual, and I would argue the highest peak any player has been at individually. In the playoffs, MJ's given you 31, 6, and 8 on 60% true shooting with 3.8 stocks per game. And brace yourselves, bronze sexuals. In the finals, MJ gave you 31, 7, and 11 on 61.2% true shooting with 4.2 stocks per game. The Bulls are the number one offense in basketball. They dropped 2 games en route to the title, one against the Sixers, one against the Lakers in the finals. They dispatched the Pistons in the ECF. They take down a good Lakers, a little bit injured Lakers squad in the finals. I just think they were more dominant than the this is another lockout season in 2012 for Miami. I just felt like Miami struggled a little bit more. I mean, they take on some good teams, but they go to 7 against an older Celtics squad in the ECF. The Pacers give them a little bit of a run for their money. The 91 Bulls and MJ just dominated in a way that the 2012 Heat didn't.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, 91 Bulls are one of the greatest offenses ever. It's one of the great playoff runs that we've seen. And like you said, I do think it's the highest individual peak we've ever seen from a basketball player. The 2012 Heat just had another level to get up to in 2013 where like the addition of Ray Allen was meaningful for them just in terms of having another offensive weapon on the floor. They were just 8th in offensive rating this year, 4th in net rating in the regular season. And then, as you mentioned, I mean, they were in real danger against the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. They needed like a signature sort of LeBron performance to get them out of that. And so very good team, but the 91 Bulls were really dominant. So I agree with you there. Okay, how about the 2 seed here, 86 Celtics against the 79 Sonics, Logan?
How the hell did the 79 Sonics not end up as a 16 seed?
Because there were other teams in the 70s.
True. Yeah. The 86 Celtics have a real chance to do some big-time damage to other all-time great teams here. I think this is the best iteration of the 80s Celtics. This is a dominant group. This is not a contest. They blow the 79 Sonics out of the water.
Yeah, I do want to shout out the 79 Sonics. Shout out Dennis Johnson. Shout out Gus Williams. Shout out Jack Sigma. Shout out to the boys. But very much a product of the 70s NBA parody. A rematch, a thrilling rematch between them and the Bullets from the previous year's finals. And they got it this time. But the 86 Celtics, one of the absolute greatest teams to ever play the game. Okay, now we've got, Logan, the 2020 Lakers versus the 03 Spurs in our 7-10 matchup.
Yeah, I think I want to go with the 03 Spurs just because the 2020 season was so weird. Like, I mean, I don't even know if that's an actual logical or consistent criticism.
Bro's hitting them with the bubble tax. It's happened many times throughout history.
Yeah, I think I am. I think I am hitting them with the bubble tax. I mean, this is the peak of Anthony Davis, and I know this is a highly contested topic. Some people will say that Anthony Davis peaked in his final years in New Orleans, right? And like as an offensive number one kind of guy and like creator, you may be right, but I mean, it's such a high level as a jump shooter and defender in this 2020 run. I don't know what to do with this matchup, man. Like I said, I am leaning the 03 Spurs, but simply because of my implicit bubble bias against the 2020 Lakers.
See, I'm anti-bubble bias because I'm like, that was still NBA basketball. And LeBron and AD that year were one of the greatest single-season duos we've ever seen. And it's interesting, I mean, the 03 Spurs obviously are defined by like all-time Duncan carry job. Not a ton of talent around him. The 2020 Lakers, it's like all-time LeBron AD duo. Not a lot of talent around them. But I do think the 2020 Lakers in the playoffs just took a total leap offensively, where they were 11th in offensive rating in the regular season, and then they were a top 2 playoff offense while they had this like really awesome team defense. And AD was just so special in this run, so great defensively, while he's also like making jumpers at a clip that we've never seen from him at any other time. And just the perimeter defensive talent they had, KCP and Danny Green, like really good 3-and-D sort of role players. Rondo being able to make some shots and stepping up and being like much better for them in the playoffs than he was in the regular season. Caruso being such a great defender. Kuzma really engaging and caring about defense, like them getting solid minutes out of Dwight. They were just such an athletic, defensively imposing team that also had LeBron and AD, and it's like, all right, if we can shoot at a decent level, we're just going to be the best team in basketball. That's what they did in the playoffs. And then I think about the 0-3 Spurs, and like, it is so impressive that they got through it, but truly the talent around Duncan was so limited. I mean, Tony Parker was still so young and inconsistent. Manu was still so young. And, I mean, they definitely were an awesome, awesome defensive team, like no doubt about that. And Duncan was able to make them a good offense, and I think had his best like passing playoff run that we've ever seen in 0-3, where, you know, he's got a couple of really good series where he's creating a lot of shots for his teammates out of the post. I do think I'm more impressed by the 2020 Lakers in the playoffs, though. I mean, they really left no doubt. Like, they went 5 games, they went 5 games, they went 5 games, then they went 6 games, whereas the 0-3 Spurs went 6 games in every series. I think the fact that they beat the Lakers is like meaningful and really impressive coming off of 3 straight titles. Other than that, I mean, they beat a really good Mavs team too, a really, really great Mavs offense. This one is close. I just end up leaning on the side of like what LeBron and AD collectively could do and did do in that run, where it was like, you've got 2 of the 3 best players on the planet. That's how it was in the playoffs. And in terms of the regular season, they weren't as dominant, but they also were like on a really dominant pace before they kind of slowed down in like the later stretch of the regular season. And then they picked it back up in the playoffs. I would go with the 2020 Lakers here. That would be my choice. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm cool with going with the Lakers. I don't truly feel super passionate about either of these teams.
But you are the bottom, so you do have the final say here.
No, but I mean, you're moving me with the depth is really the argument that's getting to me. And actually, I just kind of think the Lakers, when I'm looking back at both of these teams, kind of clear in both of the big categories. If I was going to make the 0-3 Spurs argument, it would be they took down a really good Lakers squad. They took down a really good Mavericks squad. But I agree with you. They clear in terms of star power, where I believe in LeBron and AD more, and then the level that their depth and role players were able to get to. And it's strange, right? Because when you talk about the third best player during that run, I would say it's Rondo, but you can kind of have a debate because there were a lot of other guys that were impacting it. I'm okay with going with the Lakers, and I think that's the right call. Bubble basketball was so interesting. Who can forget TJ Warren's 50-piece, man?
I never will. I never will until the day I die.
Who can forget the Suns going undefeated and still not making the playoffs?
Absolutely magical. Shout out to the 8-0 bubble Suns. I think the point that moves me is in the playoffs, the Lakers were 2nd in offensive rating. The Spurs were 10th in playoff offensive rating out of 16 teams. Still got the job done because the defense was really awesome. Both these teams were really good defenses, though. I do think the Lakers ultimately a little bit more dominant in the playoffs, so I give them the nod. Okay, now we've got the 87 Lakers against the 22 Warriors in a 3-14.
Pretty easily the 87 Lakers. I think this is one of the best versions of the 80s Lakers, but I love this 22 Warrior squad, and I'm so glad that they won a championship. I mean, it is a testament to how Steph Curry has aged as a basketball player. Also, in a video that Carson recently dropped, how badly that organization has failed the baby-faced assassin. I think it's also a testament to the greatness that Draymond Green is as a defensive player all time. I mean, they are number 1 in defensive rating during the regular season. I think he consistently can get overlooked when talking about any of these Warriors teams that won a title. He is imperative. And so was Andrew Wiggins. So was Jordan Poole during this run. I mean, all of their components were very, very important. I love this Warriors squad, but they don't really compare to the 87 Lakers.
No, I do want to give credit to the 22 Warriors for being better than the record would show, though, because, again, Steph missed some time in which they really struggled. But when Steph played, regular season and playoffs included, they were 61-25 this year, and they were a really, really awesome defense. And then in the playoffs, like, they just got career contributions out of Andrew Wiggins, who defended at the highest level we've ever seen, and Jordan Poole, who was so good offensively, and Steph was ridiculous, and Draymond was just in such phenomenal form defensively. And you've got like good role players like Otto Porter Jr., GP2 playing the best basketball of his life. Not unlike the 2020 Lakers, it was sort of like, all right, we know like who our all-time great is. And then you have some role players who just play a little bit above their means. But with the 2022 Warriors, I do think it was even more of a collective thing. The Lakers were more about a duo. The Warriors were about like Steph and then 5 guys after him, honestly, playing quite well in that run in a way they never came close to replicating. But the 87 Lakers are one of the greatest teams ever. They are a team that makes an argument for being the greatest offense ever. 65 wins in the regular season, absolutely dominant playoff run. They go 15-3. This is not a conversation. The 22 Warriors, it was sort of like a miracle that they won. It felt like the 87 Lakers, it was really a given, and they were just at the peak of their powers. I mean, the team won 5 titles in the decade, and this was the best they ever were. All right, final first round matchup, Logan. More than an hour and a half into this, we are almost done with the first round. This is a banger, though. This is a banger. We have in the 6 versus 11 slot the 08 Celtics against the 2016 Cavs. What do you think?
I could really go either way on this one. I'm
Sure.
so conflicted because I obviously think the Celtics were more impressive end to end that year, right? They have the better regular season record. They go 66-16 compared to the Cavs going 57-25. But the Cavs have the most impressive victory in NBA history, and that's them taking down the 73-9 Warriors in the NBA Finals. Damn, man. I think I'm going to go with I think I'm going to go with 08 Celtics. I don't know, man. I don't know. LeBron is at such a stupid high level. I just think I prefer the totality of the 2008 Celtics. It's really not like a... I just think I like their team top to bottom more, but I don't... I think their run's more impressive too, slightly, but...
Wait, the 08 Celtics run?
I think the first 2 rounds
Cavs,
of both of these teams is kind of embarrassing, but...
Just the competition?
Damn, man. I think this is the closest one to the first round. This and the 2020 Lakers and the 03 Spurs, and then this one is the toughest for me. Are you leaning the 16 Cavs? And I mean, I would hear it. If it's them taking down the Warriors, I completely understand that.
Yeah, this is the closest matchup of the first round to me. The 08 Celtics were so good. I mean, dominant regular season, one of the absolute greatest defenses that we have ever seen play this game. But I do think, I mean, the difference in offensive firepower here is substantial. And I do kind of think when it comes down to knocking off an all-time great team, like if I had to choose one superpower, I do think I would choose the offense. And that's where the Cavs, I mean, bro, like in this playoff run, they were a +9 relative offense. Like they were just leaps and bounds above the field. And when you get to the level that LeBron and Kyrie are at in the 2016 finals, it's like there's hardly been a better offensive duo to play this game. I do think that the Celtics have like the better roster. Now, both these teams, it honestly gets like a little bit silly with some of the role players who are playing minutes, but at least the totality of the big four for the Celtics, once you get past Kevin Love, who really wasn't even that good in this playoff run, like at all, it's just like straight role players, a lot of whom you kind of just shrug at. But the LeBron, Kyrie plus shooting, I mean, that is the one thing that this team really did specialize in with JR and Love and Richard Jefferson and Mon Shumpert, and like even when Channing Frye got out there, which didn't happen a ton, but like they had a shit ton of shooting around the greatest kick-out passer in NBA history. And with a guard like Kyrie just being such a ridiculous shot maker and LeBron re-engaging defensively to the point where like this team was a good defense, right? It's not like 2017 and 2018 when the Cavs kind of became a disastrous defense and they were all about these awesome offenses. Like this team had a lot more balance and they had that insane offensive punch to throw where like they could take out the greatest regular season team ever. Even though I do think, I mean, they definitely got some breaks going their way with Steph not being 100% and the Bogut injury and the Draymond suspension and Harrison Barnes having the worst shooting series ever. It's one of the most impressive playoff performances ever. And it's like, I get it. The first couple rounds were a joke, but like they did go 12-2 in the East and just absolutely obliterate the field. And I do think the '08 Celtics absolutely faced like a tougher path, but they also went 7 against a Hawks team that was like bad, like a 37-win Hawks team. And they went 7 against a Cavs team that hadn't taken the leap yet that they would take over the next couple years. Like they were kind of in danger in every series because their offense just wasn't that good. Like the defense was amazing, no doubt about it. But in terms of playoff offense that year, they were 6th of 16 teams. Regular season, they were 10th in offensive rating. You could talk yourself into either one. I think the ceiling that the Cavs hit in the playoff run, like I think the Cavs playoff run is significantly more impressive. I think the Celtics regular season is significantly more impressive, but push comes to shove between the two. I think like when all the chips were down, the Cavs were better, and I think I give them the nod for that.
I'm cool with going with them. I'm super close on this, but I'm down to go with the 2016 Cavs.
All right. I think the playoff run, I mean, it was just so insanely impressive. So there you have it. All right. We're through the first round, Logan. It's a miracle. Now we are on to an insane second round matchup, bro. We've got the 96 Bulls against the 9 seed 0-1 Lakers. You talk about a bummer of a draw.
Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to see the 0-1 Lakers go deeper than this because they're so much better than a second round exit. But, you know, you got to put in that work in the regular season, Logan. You got to pad your stats a little bit so you can secure a higher seeding, and they pay the price for not doing that.
They unfortunately do. I don't know quite what argument I could make against the 96 Bulls, and so I'm not going to try, even though, I mean, like we said, this is an all-time dominant run from the Lakers. They, again, lose one game, the first game against the Sixers in the NBA Finals, but I'm pretty easily going to advance the 96 Bulls here.
Yeah, the 96 Bulls, I mean, in terms of the metrics, like, nobody's going to make a better case. They were the number 7 relative offense in NBA history and one of the absolute greatest defenses ever. A lot of people would tell you maybe a better defense than an offense. Like, that's crazy. They might be the only team ever that makes like a really good case for being top 10 all-time units on both sides of the ball. 72-10 in the regular season, 15-3 in the playoffs with a plus 13.2 net rating, which is by far the best ever over the regular season and playoffs combined. The 0-1 Lakers, I mean, they could reach a level that was just about as high as anybody, but with the gap in consistency and even the highest heights, I think the 96 Bulls reached were higher. Like, I think you got to go with them. So it's a hell of a second round matchup. These are two teams that just as easily could have met in the Elite Eight or maybe even the Final Four. But alas, it ends here for the 0-1 Lakers. Okay, now a chance for redemption, though, Logan. The 2000 Lakers against the 99 Spurs. This is a fun one. Who do you like?
It is a fun one. I'm going to take the 2000 Lakers. The level that Shaq is at, it's one of the highest peaks in NBA history. And if someone wanted to make the argument, the Duncan Robinson connection, them being an all-time great defense, the best defense in basketball, I just think the Lakers beat them completely offensively in terms of ease. You know, the Lakers in 2000 are still the number 1 defense in basketball as well. Not as dominant as the 99 Spurs, but they're also top 5 in offensive rating. And again, Shaq is at this unbelievable level. So you can look at the playoff resumes and you can go, the Spurs dominated through the playoffs more, right? They go 15-2 in comparison to the 2000 Lakers going 15-8. They struggled a little bit more. I'd say the Lakers dominant regular season. And again, the level that Shaq is at as a player will be what does it for me. So I will lean on the side of the 2000 Lakers over the 99 Spurs.
Yeah, I agree. I do think it's close. And like some of the metrics will say the Spurs, like you mentioned, the playoff run in terms of overall net rating over the year, the Spurs were 22nd in NBA history. This Lakers team was 44th. And the playoff run, again, was a little bumpy for the Lakers. But I do think there's an offensive gap here. And there is a defensive gap, but I think the offensive gap in the favor of the Lakers is bigger. The supporting talent around Duncan and Robinson, and again, I mean, Robinson wasn't even that good an offensive player at this point. I mean, you look at the guards and it's like you got Avery Johnson and Mario Elie out there, and Sean Elliott is your third best player, and like there just wasn't a lot of shooting or perimeter creation at all. Like, they really, really were all about that utterly dominant defense. And, I mean, the Twin Towers, you know, two guys who could really play out of the post at a high level. It made them a good enough offense, but I think you got to go with the two-way wagon that was the 2000 Lakers here. So they advance. Now they're going to try to get revenge for the 01 Lakers against the Bulls next round. Okay, now we've got the 2 seed, 83 Sixers, up against the 7 seed, 64 Celtics.
This is a hell of a second-round battle. I would hear an argument for the 64 Celtics. I just think the 83 Sixers are one of the greatest basketball teams in NBA history. Bona fide top 10, great depth, great star power, complementary skill sets, guys that fill all kind of roles. I mean, it sucks because I'm looking at how this bracket is going to shape up, and 60 Celtics team might not make it out of the second round. We only have 2 advancing, 64 and 65. I'm going to lean on the side of the 83 Sixers, though.
Yeah, I just love this team. I mean, they were so good on both ends, and just 5th in regular season offensive rating and 5th in regular season defensive rating. But the playoff run was so dominant, and I just love this team. I mean, Moses, not my favorite watch, but like such a dominant rebounder for a team that was the best rebounding team in the NBA, created some margin there. And then it's like Dr. J is also first team All-NBA, and he's definitely not at his best at this point. But there's a very good argument that Andrew Toney is actually a better offensive player at this point than Dr. J, who is like first team All-NBA. Like, Andrew Toney was just so good. He's an all-star this year. There's a playoff series in which he leads them in scoring and like just so quick, such a crafty finisher around the basket, such a great mid-range shooter, really good passer for being a 2-guard. Like, I mean, he scored more, he averaged more assists, he was more efficient in this playoff run than Dr. J. And then it's like Mo Cheeks, great passer, great defender. He's an all-star level player. Bobby Jones coming off the bench, one of the greatest defensive forwards ever, and like another high-feel offensive player. Like, they're just such a good all-around team.
How could we pick against a team with Andrew Toney when going up against the Boston Celtics?
That's a great point, Logan. He would literally strangle Tommy Heinsohn. He would kill Tommy Heinsohn because that's Mr. Celtic. If you got to pick one of the Celtics, that's the one you go after. And I mean, RIP, you know, thank God that Andrew Toney wasn't able to get to him first. Yeah, I think we got to go with the 83 Sixers here. Ooh. This is a fun one, Logan. We've got a 3 versus 11 matchup, but it's the 15 Warriors against the 93 Bulls. What are you thinking here?
This is tough. I think I'm leaning on the 2015 Warriors. This is tough because, like I said, I mean, MJ has one of the greatest finals performances ever in the 93 run, going head-to-head against Charles Barkley. Most points per game in a single NBA Finals. I read it off, but I mean, serving you 42, 44, 55, and 41 in games 2 through 5. They take down some really great teams of the 90s in the Cavs, Knicks, and Suns. 260-win teams in the Knicks and the Suns. My thing is, I just think the Warriors were the best defense in basketball, and Steph is leading out the number 2 offense in basketball. He's so far ahead of his time, and ultimately, I don't think this is the best 90s Bulls squad. I think I would probably lean on the side of 91 surpassing them, and then, I mean, we have other teams like 96 and 97 that I think are going to take them. So I'm going to go with the 2015 Warriors in this matchup, but it's tight.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think the 2015 Warriors are just underrated, man. Like, they're 13th all-time in net rating between the regular season and playoffs combined. Like, they win 67 games in the regular season, and then I get it, maybe like not the most inspiring playoff path because of injuries to opponents, but they are number 1 in the playoffs in offensive and defensive rating. Like, I do think if you had to pick one team, they were the best offense and defense in the NBA this year. Like, they were just so ahead of the curve with the small ball stuff offensively, with the defensive speed and switchability. They were a revolutionary basketball team. So they're just lapping the field in a lot of ways. Like, when they played Steph, Draymond, Clay, and Iggy together, they had a plus 20 net rating this year. And like, they went to those looks all the time. It's the 93 Bulls. Like, it's the last championship in a three-peat. Obviously, I see the case for them. I do think they're an awesome team, but like you said, I mean, if we're ranking the Bulls title teams, they're probably coming in 5th or 6th. And the defense wasn't as dominant as some of the other teams. The offense wasn't at like the all-time heights of the last 2 years. And so I do think let's give a nod to the 2015 Warriors, man. Like, I think that team gets slept on. I really, really do. I think in so many ways they like had this completely dominant season, and I just don't think anybody was really ready for it. And I think in some ways the letdown in 2016 doesn't punctuate what they did in this run, but like Steph, again, 28, 5, 6.5 assists on 61% true shooting in this playoff run. Like, he was absolutely phenomenal. He was tearing up everybody. So, yeah, let's go with the 2015 Warriors. I like it. Okay, now we are on to another Bulls team. We've got a 1 versus 8 matchup here, 97 Bulls versus 84 Celtics.
Yeah, this is a really good Celtics team, but kind of like we just said about the Bulls, I think there's a better Celtics team out there that I prefer more.
For sure.
This Celtics team struggled a little bit more in the playoffs, as I mentioned earlier. Went to 7 against a good Knicks squad, went to 7 in the finals against the Lakers. The 97 Bulls put on a clinic, 69-13 in the regular season, 15-4 in the playoffs. Number 1 offense, top 5 defense, number 1 in net rating. I feel pretty strongly that it's the 97 Bulls.
I agree. I mean, this team, they're the number 6 relative offense ever. They're 8th all-time in net rating. They get overshadowed by the 96 Bulls before them. I mean, good role players on this team like Harper and Kukoc, and I think you got to go with them. Just the more dominant basketball team overall. Better offense, better defense. Like, give me the 97 Bulls. Okay, now we got another Bulls team, Logan. They are making some noise here, going up against a Magic Lakers team. We have the 92 Bulls here versus the 85 Lakers. This is a 4-5 matchup.
This is tough. I think I'm going to go with the 92 Bulls, and the only reason I say that is I think I prefer them defensively to a team like the 85 Lakers, but I'm trying to figure out that balancing act. Like, this is such a dominant offense in NBA history, and they actually struggled less than the Bulls in the playoffs. They go 15-4 in the playoffs in comparison to the 92 Bulls going 15-7. The 92 Bulls were the better regular season team too, though. But I'm also looking at the rest of this bracket, and yeah, I'm okay with it. I think there's a slightly better Lakers team out there that I'm okay with dispatching the 85 Lakers for. So this one's very, very close, but I'm going to lean ever so slightly on the 92 Bulls because of their defense.
Yeah, I think it's the right call. And also, like, this offense was completely insane statistically in terms of, like, relative offensive rating, better even than the 85 Lakers. Like, 92 Bulls tied for the 13th best offense in NBA history, like completely dominant regular season team. And yeah, not quite as dominant in the playoffs, but I also think like faced a little bit of a tougher playoff path than the Lakers before the finals. Like, the Lakers did have to go up against the Celtics in the finals, but the East that the Bulls had to go through is better than the West that the Lakers had to go through, which was still, I mean, kind of a joke. At this point, you go up against like the 52-win Nuggets in the conference finals. Before that, like a team below 500, a team 1 game above 500. So I think the 92 Bulls, better two-way team here, and I do think that they are the correct choice, although it is pretty close. Okay, this is a really good one, Logan. We've got the 2-seeded 67 76ers against the 10-seed 2018 Warriors.
This is such a high all-time individual peak for a player in Wilt Chamberlain. And unfortunately, I just don't think he can override the ease and the star power of the 2018 Warriors. I mean, basketball has never been easier, and that's what I'm going to come back to. The Sixers are more impressive in terms of their regular season record, their net rating, their offensive rating, their defensive rating, all of these different metrics, and yet it was just so easy. The Warriors never really had to put their foot on the gas like that, and they still dominated in a big-time way. The argument I would hear is that they struggled more in their real matchup against the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals, and the Sixers were never on the ropes like that in their 3 rounds. They only get pushed to 6 against the Warriors in the finals. So I think this is close, but the 2018 Warriors are just one of the greatest teams ever. I think the 67 Sixers are too. They're a great all-time team. Again, this Wilt peak is one of the highest in NBA history, but I do side with the 2018 Warriors.
I don't know, man. Like, in terms of the talent quotient, yes, the 2018 Warriors. And when you account for Steph's absence and you look at how great they were in the games that Steph played, I think their case gets even more compelling. But I do think relative to era, like, again, the 67 Sixers were the best offense of the 60s. They had the best net rating of any team in the 60s. They were the best regular season team. They were not tested really whatsoever in the playoffs, like just completely dominated. They had 4 guys at least who could like easily drop 20 points per game on you in a series over a stretch. I mean, just so many all-star level talents, all the while they're built around Wilt, who is maximizing his offensive efficiency, maximizing his playmaking value, really, really imposing rim deterrent, one of the greatest rebounders, if not the greatest, to ever play the game. Like, I just think it would be different if the 2018 Warriors handled the Rockets in more convincing fashion and they just left no doubt. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, they didn't really tighten the screws in the regular season, but once they wanted to, that was flat out one of the 5 greatest teams we've ever seen again. Like, they were actually vulnerable. And the Cavs team that they faced in the finals that year with Kyrie gone was a joke. I think if you look at the more impressive resume on the season, it's the 67 76ers. And I think I'm going to argue for them because of that. I think that's one of the handful of greatest teams, again, like relative to era, that we've ever seen. They were completely dominant, and it just clicked for them in a perfect way where, like, the year before this, Billy Cunningham, for example, like, wasn't quite ready. You know, he wasn't quite at the level that he needed to be such an important guy on this team. And then the year after that, Billy Cunningham gets hurt. Like, it just all came together for this totally dominant team.
I mean, I'm not going to have a problem if we end up having the 67 Sixers advance. I just think the basketball was so easy for them, and like they didn't ever really have to exert themselves until that round against the Rockets. And to me, it's more of a testament to how good that Rockets team was than it is a stain on this Warriors team. I understand your argument, and it's a good one. Like, I get what you're saying with the resume point, and that's why ultimately I'm not going to be mad if we have the 67 Sixers advance, because Wilt is at such a high level, and this is such a great team. But, you know, is this Warriors team all that different from the 2017 team? Like, in terms of resume, sure, but in terms of ability, I just don't think they're that different, and so that's why I'm going to argue for them.
Yeah, I agree that they're not that different. I mean, I do think there was some slippage defensively, but a lot of that mostly just due to effort. I don't think that there's really a significant decline in terms of talent anywhere in this roster, to be honest with you. I mean, but I will say this, like 2017, the greatest lineup in NBA history was anything with Steph, KD, Dre, and Clay. And I mean, especially if you put Iggy in there as the 5th guy, but like 2017 lineups with those 4 posted a plus 24 net rating and played like 1,200 minutes. Like, it's completely unfathomable. We'll get back to them, obviously. This year, that number's at plus 14, which is like really good, but it is a significant drop off. So I'm super conflicted here. I know we said the top bottom tiebreaker, but you actually haven't exercised a tiebreaker yet, and I did exercise one. So if you want, we can go with your gut on this one, because I could really go either way.
Considering the fact, even though I would take the 2018 Warriors individually, considering the fact that, so maybe this is a little bit of bracket manipulation.
Sure.
Considering the fact that we know the 2017 Warriors are going to go far, and this is the only iteration of an all-time version of Wilt Chamberlain, I will side on the side of the 67 Sixers for more variety in our teams.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want that to be the tiebreaker, but if it has to be, I think we can roll with that, because I do think there's a very good basketball case. I mean, they just have the better resume. Like,
I do too. I think there is a strong argument.
Faith in the talent, which is a very valid argument for sure. But let's go with the 67 Sixers. Why not? Shout out to them. Really, really great team. Happy to see them advance. All right. Now we got a Celtics on Celtics matchup here. A 3 seed versus a 6 seed. The 24 Celtics against the 65 Celtics.
This is what I was alluding to. Damn. I think I lean the 24 Celtics. I mean,
Yeah,
this
I
team was
agree.
so dominant end to end. I understand all the criticisms that we've laid out, the maybe unimpressive resume in the playoffs, Jason Tatum's issues putting the ball in the basket. They crushed. They were so far ahead of everyone else in the league that it's like not close to
Yeah.
me. And this is a great 65 Celtics squad too. Again, I just think they are getting lapped in terms of the offensive ability of the 24 Celtics.
The aggregate two-way talent the 24 Celtics had was so special. Like the ability to survive an off Tatum shooting run, the ability to survive Kristaps Porzingis being hurt and being able to only play limited minutes when he is on the court and still only drop 3 games in a title run regardless of some of the teams you played in that path. Like that's such a unique thing. They were just so loaded up with ball handling and good passing and all-time great shooting and switchable versatile defenders and good size and really good in the possession game, and they could just push so many different buttons. Like it's ironic because people will get on them for rigidity offensively, and I think that's a valid criticism. Like if you look at what went wrong for them last year, right? Like falling in love with the mismatch attacking, falling in love with the 3 generically, whatever. And I do think like this year's offense is the best they've ever had because it is more nuanced and more fluid and just more diversified. But it's like, man, when you can get up threes and make them at the clip that they did, it's just such ridiculous offense. They're one of the greatest offenses to ever play the game. And then defensively, they did have insane versatility. Look at what they did to the Mavs offense in the finals. Like an offense that was tearing teams up, and it's like, all right, we're going to put Tatum at the 5. We're going to switch everything, and you guys really are just going to stagnate and fall apart. And that Mavs offense had some very flawed talent around Luka and Kyrie, but like they shut those guys down too. I just think they're such an impressive two-way team. As much as I love to advocate for the Russell Celtics, when you have a team that is so great defensively and also one of the greatest offenses ever, like I got to give love to the 24 Celtics here. And so we shall. All right. We're in the bottom half of the bracket now. We've got the 1 seed 2017 Warriors against the 8 seed '07 Spurs. Shout out '07 Spurs. Been nice to know you. We're going to take care of you here, though. It's going to be the 2017 Warriors. Now, we got a little Kobe LeBron action, Logan. In our 4-5 here, the 2013 Heat against the '09 Lakers.
Yeah. Damn. This is tight. This is a very tightly contested matchup. These teams are so similar in so many different ways too. The '09 Lakers go 65-17. The 2013 Heat go 66-16. Both of these teams go 16-7 in the playoffs. Both of these teams are an over +8 team in terms of net rating. They are top 3 offenses. They are both top 10 defenses. So I'm damn near 50-50 on this. I could see it going either way. I think the tiebreaker to me, I'm going to give it to the 2013 Heat for a few reasons. My argument is going to be that I think that their star player, LeBron, is at a higher level than Kobe was it in 2009, although Kobe was damn good in such a bogged down, tough era to get buckets. And I really like the supporting cast on this '09 Lakers team. I love a guy like Pau Gasol. I love Lamar Odom. I think he is so underrated. Andrew Bynum, such a solid contributor for this team. But again, when I come back to it, I think LeBron is at a higher level as an individual player. And I think the team they beat, admittedly, they go to 7 games. You know, the Lakers only go to 5 games against a very good Orlando Magic team. I think they slayed a tougher dragon in the NBA Finals. And that is going to be that along with LeBron being at a higher level, in my opinion, is going to be my tiebreaker. So I'm going to give it to the 2013 Heat.
Yeah, I agree with this. And I do think the Heat were just the better offense. I mean, it was just such a well-built team at this point where you have like this all-time wrecking ball downhill in LeBron, and they'd put so much shooting around him with Bosh putting more of an emphasis on stretching things out to the mid-range and beyond the three-point line even, and then having shooters like Battier and Ray Allen on this team. Like, they're one of the better relative offenses in NBA history. I believe they are in the top 30 and also the number one playoff offense, whereas it just came a little bit harder for the '09 Lakers offensively. They were fourth in playoff offensive rating. Like, we're nitpicking here for sure, but that's kind of what we have to do. I do think it comes down to the Heat being an even better offense and the Heat having ultimately the best player in this series. I'm going to go with them as well. Or not this series, but whatever, between these two teams. Okay, now we are on to the 2 seed, 71 Bucks, up against the 7 seed, 2013-14 Spurs.
Give me the 71 Bucks. I mean, I just think this is an all-time dominant team. Number one offense, defense, net team, 12-2 in the playoffs. Just dominated end-to-end. I love this Spurs team. Great run, but I think there's a pretty big gap between these two teams.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, 71 Bucks tied 23rd all-time in relative offense while being the number one defense. Like, with how we're judging these teams, just how much did you dominate the field? I think it's tough to make an argument against the 71 Bucks as much as I do love the beautiful game Spurs. This is another interesting one, Logan. We've got a 3-6 matchup here. The 25 Thunder against the 98 Bulls.
Damn.
Damn is right.
Am I crazy for leaning on the 2025 Thunder? I don't know if this is...
I think I feel the same, actually.
I think there's a little bit of an intersection here of the 98 Bulls being at the end of their powers. This is the weakest of the Bulls champion teams. Them or 93, take your pick. And although the Thunder didn't have as dominant of a playoff run as I would have expected, they get pushed to 7 against Denver, 7 against Indiana. I think those are both really good teams. And the thing for me is just I think the Thunder had a better relative defense. And I think they're an all-time defense. And they were able to disrupt opposing team stars in a way that I just don't know if I've ever seen before from a basketball team. And so when I take the all-time defense that I'm getting with the OKC Thunder, the ability to disrupt any opposing star that they're playing, mix that in with the fact that I think this is one of the weakest Bulls title teams, I'll lean on the 2025 Thunder, even if their playoff run was a little more underwhelming than I would have expected going into it.
I agree. This is really close, but I think the thing to clarify here is if it's pretty much any other Bulls team that won the title, like, give me them. For the 98 Bulls, though, again, like, it just came harder offensively. Like, the efficiency from their best guys was rough. They were 9th in regular season offensive rating. They were not a top 3 playoff offense, I don't believe. And so the criticism of the Thunder would be at times the playoff offense was rough. And I would agree with that, right? They were, I think, 13th of 16 teams in three-point percentage. At times, the questions about offensive creation for anyone outside of Shea were very real, and Shea didn't play his best. He didn't have the 3-ball going. I thought it was an impressive run from him overall, but not the levels of hyper-efficiency, spotlessness that like he had in the regular season last year or the regular season this year, as he's even taken things up a level. But when you talk about a team that through the Western Conference playoffs, I believe, had the best opponent-adjusted playoff relative defensive rating in NBA history. So considering what the opposing offenses normally do offensively, like the extent to which they held them below that normal production was the best we had ever seen from the Thunder. I think it topped even the 1965 Celtics. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, we watched them completely break offense after offense, wreak havoc, force so many turnovers, parlay that into such elite transition offense, dominate those margins, and be so suffocating and oppressive defensively that even when the half-court offense was up and down, they still beat everybody, and sometimes in very convincing fashion. Like, I get it. There's questions about the offense, but there's questions about the Bulls' offense too, and in fact, in terms of like playoff net rating, this Thunder team was better. In terms of the regular season resume, the Thunder were considerably better in spite of the fact that, I mean, they had to deal with Chet Holmgren being out for 50 games. They went undefeated without Jalen Williams last year. Like, I just think the Shea plus GOAT level defense formula is better than a certainly non-peak MJ and an awesome defense, but it was not at the level of this Thunder defense at this point. Like the 98 Bulls, they were actually vulnerable, and so were the 25 Thunder, but I like their formula more, and they were the convincingly more dominant regular season team. So I am going to give them the nod here. We agree on that. Okay. Now we've got a Lakers on Lakers matchup, Logan. We've got a 1 versus a 9, 72 Lakers against the 0-2 Lakers. Who do you like here?
This is pretty close. I'm going to go with the 72 Lakers, though. I mean, as you mentioned earlier, this is the team that ripped off 33 straight victories in the regular season. Gail Goodrich leads them in scoring in the regular season and the playoffs. And there's just a nice mix, right? You've still got Jerry leading the league in assists, 26 points per game. Wilt, far from the peak of his powers, but still efficient, impactful defensively. Good players like Happy Harrison, Jim McMillan. Like, I think this is a really solid squad. And they just, again, I think dominated the league more relative to their era than the 0-2 Lakers did. Even though, I mean, you're getting a really high-level version of Shaq and Kobe. If I had a tiebreaker, my tiebreaker would be the fact that I think the Lakers dispatched of a similar foe in one less game than the Lakers did, right? They go to 7 against a 60-win Kings team. The 72 Lakers take out a great 63-win Bucks team in 6. So this is close. I feel like the 72 Lakers were more dominant start to finish, though. So give me them.
Totally agree. It's honestly not that close for me. I mean, the 72 Lakers, they were an incredible offense. They were a phenomenal defense as well. And I'm glad that you brought up beating the 72 Bucks, because that was an insane team. Like, the Lakers were the number 1 offense and the number 2 defense. The Bucks were the number 2 offense and the number 1 defense. Like, you've got two teams that are posting double-digit positive net ratings in the regular season, which I think the only other time we've ever seen that is 2016 with the Spurs and the Warriors. So, like, the Bucks coming off this completely dominant title season, they were just about as good in the regular season, and the Lakers took care of them. That's a big feather in their cap, on top of, again, having like a top 15 net rating in NBA history and the longest win streak in NBA history, and one of the great duos that we've seen, even if this was a rougher playoff run offensively for Jerry, and obviously with Wilt, you know, the scoring volume is way down at this point, but the defense is so awesome, and just a lot of talent on this team. I think they're too good to deny here, so they do advance. Now, Logan, we've got a bad boy Pistons team. The 89 Pistons against the 91 Bulls. This is another 4 versus 5. Who do you like here?
Yeah, the Pistons are going to have to do something gimmicky to win this matchup.
Sure, bring out the hammer.
Maybe bring out the gun. I'm going to go with the 91 Bulls. I like I mentioned earlier, I think this is the highest peak of a player individually. And, you know, This is a great Pistons squad. They dominated the playoffs. They went 15-2, and I think this is the best iteration of a Pistons championship squad. That being said, though, I'm very strongly in favor of the 91 Bulls. Just, they got MJ. They got a really good squad behind them, but they also have the best version, I think, of the best player of all time. So give me the 91 Bulls.
Yeah, I mean, with a top 25 offense in NBA history and a really good defense and one of the most dominant playoff runs we've ever seen, and top 10 all-time in net rating between the regular season and the playoffs, like, I really struggled to turn down the Bulls here. Also, for bonus points, they did sweep the 91 Pistons this year, which was not as good a team as the 89 team. But I just think the offensive gap is so significant here. Like, the level that MJ was at offensively at this point, the efficiency, the playmaking, the off-ball scoring of it all, the excellence in the possession game, I can't turn them down. With a supporting cast that I like, give me the 91 Bulls here as well. So they advance. Now we've got the 85 Celtics, a 2 seed up against the 7 seed 2020 Lakers.
Pretty easily. Give me the C's. I think this is the best version of the 80s Celtics squad. I think they have I said, a real chance to keep going further. And I think there's more depth. I think they dominated the regular season more end to end. They were great in the playoffs, too. They swept a 57-win Bucks team. I just think they were pretty concretely more dominant end-to-end. And I think they're a better team top to bottom. I think they have better star power, better depth.
Yeah.
I much prefer the 86 Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't close. Like, The offensive gap is so significant. The depth gap is significant. Again, I mean, we were praising some of the Lakers role players for picking things up in the playoffs, but I mean, the third best guy on that team compared to like a 3 through 6 here of Robert Parrish, Dennis Johnson, Danny Ainge, Bill Walton. Like, this was just such a good team. They played together so well. They were so elite on the offensive glass. One of the greatest passing teams we've ever seen. Like, collectively, maybe the best passing team we've ever seen, just in terms of this guy's a positive passer, this guy's a positive passer. And then Mikal being at the level that he was at this point, where he was a guy now who could give you like 25 a game in the playoffs on ridiculous efficiency, like plus 10% sort of relative to shooting. He was arguably the better scorer than Larry Bird at this point, Logan. I know you don't want to hear that with how you feel about Larry Bird in your 10 spot, but like Mikal, one of the great post scorers we've seen, they're just so awesome offensively, and they're the number one defense in basketball. And the greatest home team in NBA history, by the way, if we're giving them bonus points for that. It's got to be the 86 Celtics here. They're just more talented top to bottom.
Yeah, I was hoping that wasn't going to come up today. I'm creating a Hall of Fame of my bad takes, and that is going to be enshrined in there very, very shortly. I should have had Steph on my list. I was trolling that episode. I definitely would have KD very, very high on my list. But sure, yeah, Larry Bird, cemented in my 10 spot.
Hell yeah. For life, man. But Mikal, I mean, once you get to the mid-80s, he's just an absolute weapon. 86, 87, my God. Speaking of 87, we've got here the 87 Lakers against the 2016 Cavs. This is a 3 versus 11. Who do you like?
I'm going to go with the 87 Lakers because I think there's a difference in like all-time offensive firepower. I just think it's one of the greatest offenses ever.
Yeah.
But I would hear an argument just because the 16 Cavs knocked off the 73-9 Warriors. I mean, it is the greatest finals, I think, in NBA history. It's an all-time upset. But end-to-end, both sides of the ball, I think the 87 Lakers are better. But if someone wanted to make the argument, I wouldn't close my ears. I would listen to it. But I'm going to go with the Lakers.
Yeah, it's just such a great offense. It's hard to deny. I mean, we're talking about peak Magic at this point, who like really could take games over as a scorer. This is a team that had the raw record for offensive rating for a long time. Like, I believe until the 2017 Warriors finally broke it. And then in the playoffs, they had a 120 raw offensive rating, man. Like in 1987, which was actually a relatively good time for NBA offense, especially compared to like the late 90s, early 2000s, what have you. But like, it's just stupid. I mean, the pace, the playmaking of Magic, the scoring hyper efficiency with just like this absolute platoon of play finishing studs around him, the versatility of James Worthy, the jump shooting of Byron Scott, Kareem still being a high-level offensive player at this point, with really good depth. I mean, Coop and AC Green and Michael Thompson, like, just such a machine. I don't know how you could deny them with how dominant the regular season and playoffs both were. I mean, this team goes 80-20 overall this year with better than a +9 regular season net rating. I think we got to give the 2016 Cavs props for the levels that they could reach, but like, the argument for them is about offense. Okay, we can reach this super high level offensively. The 87 Lakers were an even better offense and an even better defense. Like, neither of these teams were great defenses, but they were a little better on that side of the ball too, the 87 Lakers. And just a better roster overall with a player who's at like one of the greatest peaks ever in their own right. So, got to go with them here. All right. We're in the Sweet 16, Logan. 96 Bulls against 2000 Lakers. I mean, we just talked about the 96 Bulls versus the 01 Lakers. There's no argument for the 2000 Lakers being better just because of the stuff that we already talked about. Like, they had the better regular season, but clearly at their best, the 01 Lakers were better than the 2000 Lakers, and still it's got to be the 96 Bulls. How about, Logan, this 2-3 matchup, the 83 Sixers against the 2015 Warriors?
Yeah, this is a good one. I think I'm going to lean on the 83 Sixers. This is such a tight battle. I don't know. I mean, honestly, the thing that I'm trying to balance out is the Steph Curry quotient individually, just how far Steph is ahead of the league compared to the balance that a team like the Sixers have, right? Because I think the Sixers have the better depth and overall cast of characters, but I think Steph balances that out and is by far, the most ahead of his time kind of guy. Wow, Draymond and Bogut are also helping lead out the best defense.
Yeah.
I've talked myself into it. Give me the 2015 Warriors. Yeah, I'm going to do that. The fact that Dre and Bogut and them are leading out the best defense in basketball while Steph is the best offensive player in basketball, so ahead of everybody else in the league. But damn, the Sixers are so dominant in the playoffs. They lose one game. This is the toughest battle I think we've had on the ballot today. I'm very conflicted, but I think I lean the 2015 Warriors.
I am also extremely conflicted with this one. The 2015 Warriors, again, best offense and best defense in the NBA that year. That's pretty damn hard to beat, dude. And again, maybe it didn't feel like that dominant throughout the playoffs, but they're a crazy impressive team. I'm super conflicted here. I think that the Sixers have the more impressive playoff run. Sweeping the Lakers coming off of 2 titles in 3 years is pretty nuts. They were the number 1 playoff defense and just really, really great athleticism and size on that end, and guards who could defend as well. It's tough. It's tough because, I do think, Steph would take another level up in 2016. Draymond would take another level up in 2016. Even Clay was better in 2016, but those guys were already so damn good at this point. Honestly, I think I like the 83 Sixers supporting cast a little bit more. Just the depth of really good players of... Again, a 3 through 5 like Mo Cheeks and Andrew Toney and Bobby Jones compared to Clay and HB and Iggy. I don't know.
I'm here for 83 Sixers love, so I'm all for it. And I think it's a sound and strong argument as well. That depth is really what makes that team in totality.
We're flipping coins at this point.
Yeah.
We really are. I guess the thing is just and again, I think this gets held against them way too much, but the Warriors were down 2-1 to the Grizzlies. They were down 2-1 to the Cavs. There were moments when it wasn't perfect, and for the Sixers, they pretty much just left no doubt, left no doubt, left no doubt. I guess we give them the nod for that.
Faux. Go ahead, Moses.
Faux, man. They damn near got it done. But I love the 2015 Warriors. I kind of hate to see them go. Ooh, Logan. We've got a Bulls on Bulls matchup here. We've got a 1 versus 4, the 97 Bulls versus the 92 Bulls.
This is so tight. I'm going to go with the 97 Bulls, and I think the reason I'm going to do that is I just ever so slightly prefer their defensive personnel with a guy like Rodman in the fold to the cast of characters that they had in 92 with a guy like Horace Grant. I also think that they struggled less against tougher competition in 97. They take out a 61-win Heat team in 5 games, a 56-win Hawks team in 5 games. They take out the 64-win Jazz, a really formidable opponent, in 6 games. And I think they were just a little bit tested more in 92. And like I said, I prefer their defense overall as well in their personnel in 97. This one's tight, but I'm going to go with the 97 Bulls.
Yeah, this one's really tough, man, because I think the 97 Bulls depth I prefer a little bit, but I think that both MJ and Scottie are clearly better in 92, especially MJ. He's just such an insane athlete, and the scoring efficiency and even the volume he could scale up to another level in 92 compared to 97. But he was still absolutely insane, clearly the best player in the world in 97. Both of these teams, among the greatest offenses ever. I think the 97 Bulls, the metrics are a little better, but they're also all-time great with the 92 Bulls, and you can argue there's a little bit of inflation for the 97 Bulls just with a couple more expansion teams being in the mix, although there were also a couple of recently introduced expansion teams in 92. I think it does come down to the 97 Bulls having the more dominant playoff run. But these teams are so damn close. I mean, literally, like, both number 1 offenses, number 4 defenses, plus 12 net rating for the 97 Bulls, plus 11 net rating for the 92 Bulls. I think I'm going to go with, again, the depth being the deciding factor here for the 97 Bulls. Having a Rodman, who I do think was a bit more impactful overall than Horace Grant, although Horace Grant was also really good. It's so close. It's so close, so I'm going to try to not overthink it and just say 97 Bulls were a bit more dominant in the playoffs, and I think that's what ultimately gives them the nod, because I think you could really talk yourself into either one here. Okay, now, Logan, we've got a 2 versus a 3. The 67 Sixers versus the 24 Celtics.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I'm going to take the 67 Sixers, and my justification is going to be that I just think Wilt was at a higher all-time level than anybody on Boston. And I hear the argument for Boston because they're such a good modern basketball team with what they could do, what we've talked about in terms of mismatch attacking, floor spacing, the switchability defensively, and just the overall such great depth in star talent at the top. And what's interesting, both of these teams, number 1 in offensive rating, number 3 in defensive rating, number 1 in net rating. Philly has the better regular season record at 68-13 versus Boston at 64-18. And yet Boston mowed through the playoffs in a different way, going 16-3 versus Philly going 11-4. But I also think Philly has the best win of either of these teams in the playoffs, taking out the Celtics in just 5 games.
Yeah.
That's going to be what I'm going to hang Philly's hat on, is I think they have the best player overall with these two teams, the higher player at an all-time higher peak, and they've got the most impressive playoff series victory with these two teams. I think Boston from 2024 has a very strong argument, but I'm going to take the Sixers.
Yeah, I think you said it really well. I think it comes down to the all-time great peak of Wilt with a supporting cast that also rocked and was really balanced. And I think, disposing of the Celtics like that, a Celtics team that had won 8 straight titles, a Celtics team that was still awesome, like better in 67 than in 68 and 69, like historic defense, actually like a pretty good offense for once, and still like the 67 Philly team was just on another level from them. It's just awesome. Like, you have so many guys who are weapons out there. Like, look at the playoff run. Wilt averages 22. Hal Greer averages 28, 6, and 5. For Wilt, it's 22, 29, and 9 to be specific. Chet averages 22. Wally Jones averages 17 and a half, and he's a good passer too. Billy Cunningham's giving you 15 a game. Luke Jackson's giving you 11 and 12 a game. And those guys were like these big athletic forwards. Like, it was just such a well-built team for that time. And I do think the more dominant team with the more impressive playoff run. So let's give the nod to Philly. If you're going to put them past the 2018 Warriors, I think they go past the 2024 Celtics as well. How about now this 1 versus 4, the 2017 Warriors versus the 2013 Heat?
Pretty easily. Give me the 2017 Warriors.
Yeah, man. It's kind of all that needs to be said. Shout out to the 2013 Heat, but there are levels to this. How about 2 versus 3, $71 versus 2025 Thunder?
Speaking,
I'm going to be honest.
Levels to this.
This is a mismatch. Like, the $71 have the best point differential in NBA history. Pace helps them a little bit with that, but just both these teams, great historic defenses. Thunder, better defense. Bucks, also a historic offense. Thunder, very good offense. Shaky playoff half-court offense at times. This has got to be the 71 Bucks. Now we're on to the 72 Lakers against the 91 Bulls. This is a 1 versus 5.
Man, I am conflicted in this one. I think the Lakers have such good offensive depth. I'm trying to calculate, does MJ's absolute apex peak here outweigh the totality of the Lakers roster? And I don't know, because I definitely think I prefer the Lakers in totality with Goodrich, with Jerry West at a very high level, with Wilt still being there. But the Bulls just mowed down everybody in their. They go 15-2 in the playoffs. The Lakers are also very impressive. They go 12-3. They take down a very good. The Bulls do the Lakers in 5 in the finals. They slay the Pistons.
Slayed them. Ate them up.
Damn, man. I think I ever so slightly lean on the 72 Lakers because of the totality of their roster, and I think that their defense was better relative to the Bulls of this era.
Yeah, I agree. But then I can also see the argument that, like, because West, although he was at his playmaking peak at this point, like, and still, I mean, a handful getting downhill, it was just a pretty bad jump shooting run from him. And so the scoring wasn't efficient. And so the Lakers' playoff offense was not great, but they still got the job done in convincing fashion. They still beat like an all-time team en route. The regular season is more impressive. I think the 72 Lakers are the choice, but I would hear the argument that like the 91 Bulls were just at such a high level offensively and they were so dominant in the playoffs that they do deserve the nod. But 72 Lakers, I mean, you're talking about a team that went 81-16 over the entire season. Like, that's pretty ridiculous. So I think let's give them the nod here. That's a really close one, though. And now, oh my God, Logan, doesn't get any better than this. We've got a 2-3, 86 Celtics, 87 Lakers. Come on, two signature teams of the 80s. Who do you like?
This is so tough. I think the Celtics take the edge in terms of two-way ability. They were the number one defense in basketball. I also think they take the cake in terms of the difficulty of their path. They take down 3 50-win squads to the 87 Lakers, just taking down 1 50-win squad. But the thing that I think balances this out and maybe swings it in the favor of the 87 Lakers is the fact that, one, best offense in basketball that year. Also, they beat the Celtics in the NBA Finals, which, you know, it shouldn't really factor in, but it's just a year later, and they do topple them. This is as much of a coin toss as it gets. I'm 50-50 on both of these squads. I think I lean the 86 Celtics because of two-way value, the impressiveness of the run, and I think the rosters are almost a wash. I think they're so evenly matched. But like I said, I'm going to go two-way value, and I'm going to say the impressiveness of the run. But I would have no issue with somebody taking the 87 Lakers right here. This is so close.
It is, dude. I mean, just both dominant regular season teams, dominant in the playoffs. The Celtics had like a +10 playoff net rating. The Lakers had a +11 playoff net rating. I think it has to be the 86 Celtics because they were this all-time offense, not at the level of the 87 Lakers, let me be clear, but while being the best defense in the NBA, whereas the 87 Lakers were good, not great defense. But both these teams were just loaded with talent. The concentration of good players on these two teams at this time was really absurd. You look at the Lakers, and obviously both these teams have their all-time great superstar, but James Worthy was so damn good in 87. In the playoffs, he was scoring 24 a game on +9% relative true shooting, and the versatility he had as a scorer with the post game, the mid-range game, his agility in transition, just such a good complement to Magic as like a true lean sort of number one scorer for you. And then you just look at like the intersection of size and skill that both these teams had, just these like incredible front courts. And it obviously helps when you have a 6'9" unicorn who like totally defies any standards of a position at this time, like just these total wizards with the basketball in Bird and Magic. But the guys alongside them too, the Lakers, these sort of post-scoring machines, really good play finishers, Worthy and of course Kareem. And then the Celtics, the totality of the post-up talent they had, the brilliant post-scoring of McHale, really good post-scoring and rebounding value with Parrish, what those guys brought you together in terms of dual rim protection. They were excellent. And then you have coming off the bench, Bill Walton, who is super old and has had every injury under the sun by this point. But with his IQ, his passing feel can still bring value offensively and defensively. Again, he may be super stiff, but he's still so massive and smart that he brings that rim protection value. And then both these teams are also getting good stuff out of their guards. Byron Scott, Michael Cooper was really, really good in the 87 run, like obviously an all-world defender, but also was spraying from three on like decent volume in that run and was bringing you really good playmaking value. And then you have with the Celtics, the jump shooting of Ainge, the defense of Dennis Johnson. And what stands out with all these guys is the passing ability. I mean, it's interesting because both these teams are producing great offensive results and they've got like really, really high assist numbers specifically. With LA, it's coming more so from Magic dominating the ball and averaging 12 to 15 assists a game himself. With the Celtics, it really is this synergy. And like, I do love watching them play so much, man. They move as like this connected offensive unit as much as any team ever. Such heads up passing from so many different guys on the floor in transition, always willing to make one extra pass. The playmaking you're getting out of the post, especially with the combination of Bird and Walton, is just absurd. And all the while, I mean, they're this dominant offensive rebounding team, which where, again, the size is such a significant component. Just a couple of really, really cool basketball teams. I do think it comes down to the defensive edge for Boston. That's why I give them the nod. But these are two amazing, amazing teams. I also think Bird was the best player in the world in 86. Magic was the best player in the world in 87. Like, you could go either way. I think it's the 86 Celtics, though. Ever so slightly. All right. Let's move into the Elite Eight here, Logan. We are now looking at straight heavyweight matchups at this point. We've got the 1 and 2 seeds, 96 Bulls and 83 Sixers. Shout out Fo, but tough to make an argument.
Yeah, it's the 72 and 10 team. I mean, if you were going to make this argument, it would have to be on the playoff dominance, the fact that they go 12 and 1, but number 5 offense, number 5 defense, number 1 net team versus the number 1 offense, number 1 defense, and number 1 net team from that year.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to make any argument against the 96 Bulls, and I'm not going to try to do it. So I'm going to say they take it and head into the Final Four.
Agreed completely. Now we've got the 97 Bulls against the 67 Sixers. The 67 Sixers, man, they escaped a very dangerous matchup against the Warriors a couple rounds ago. Now they've got a chance to get into the Final Four.
Man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, man. I want both of these teams to advance. Admittedly, I want the 67 Sixers to advance just because we've already got one Bulls squad. But, I mean, it's basically the same group running it back. And they have – it's so crazy to me that they so easily just ran through – the teams like they did in the playoffs. Both of these are impressive. The fact that the 67 Sixers bounced the 60-win Celtics in 5 games. I think the totality of the playoff run, and they have a more dominant regular season, I'm going to give this to the 97 Bulls. But if you lean with me, I mean, what a valiant effort and run from the 67 Sixers.
I don't know, man. I don't know if it's over. I'm thinking about this. I mean, the 97 Bulls did have some issues in terms of their playoff offense. They were 7th in playoff offensive rating. Now, they still were dominant. And overall this year, I mean, just when Dennis Rodman played in the regular season, they were 48 and 7. That's pretty tough to deny. And then you go out there and, I mean, you beat a good Hawks team and a really good Heat team and a 64-win Jazz team all pretty convincingly. This isn't the 96 team quite because they weren't at that same level on either side of the ball, honestly. Playoff offense wasn't as good. Defense wasn't like at that same exact level. Kukoc had some issues in the playoffs offensively. Rodman maybe wasn't quite as good overall as he was in 96, but they're still absolutely insane. I don't know, though. I mean, I'm super high on the 67 Sixers, man. I think in terms of utter end-to-end dominance, they make a really good case. But I think I've taken the lead and I've broken enough ties. If you want to go 97 Bulls here, let's go 97 Bulls. I really, at this point, I'm like, you could fucking pick one out of a hat and I could go either way. But it's tough because you're trying to nitpick things, but it's like, at this point, none of these nits impeded these teams from being like completely all-time dominant. So I do think the case I'll make for the 67 Sixers is they had more offensive talent. They did.
True.
Like, they had more guys who could really score the basketball. And I do think that led to a better playoff offense. So, Logan, I think I'm talking myself back into the Philly team.
You know what? I'm with it.
Let's do it, dude. I mean, let's put some fucking respect on a 68-13 team that dominated the Celtics. Just a special, special group. All right. Also, it does prevent a Bulls-on-Bulls matchup, which is a little something of a bonus. This, I mean, what a matchup. The 2017 Warriors against the 71 Bucks.
I mean, this could be the final, and I would be okay with it. These are such great basketball teams. I could not take anyone above the 2017 Warriors, having watched them, though. I mean, I think the argument for the 71 Bucks is pretty strong. The fact that they have such a dominant number one in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You've got the offensive stud in Oscar Robertson that makes everything easy on that end. I think the 2017 Warriors are so overwhelming. It was just so easy for them, and I don't know if I could take a team above them, so I'm going to take the 2017 Dubs.
Yeah. How do you really argue against it? I mean, like, as amazing as all the Bucks metrics are, the Warriors in the playoffs post a plus 13.5 net rating. I mean, they went 18-4 without Kevin Durant this year. They went 65-12 with Kevin Durant. I mentioned, I mean, all of their lineups featuring the Big Four had a plus 24 net rating. They were the greatest offense ever and the best defense in the NBA. It's literally just an unfair collection of talent. So it's got to be the 2017 Warriors, as amazing as the 72 Bucks are. That's a really tough draw in the Elite Eight. Now we've got the 72 Lakers against the 86 Celtics. Can the Celtics take down another Lakers team, Logan?
Man. Ooh, boy. I don't know where to go. I think I'm going to take the 86 Celtics.
Yeah.
And I think
I
my
agree.
justification is going to be that their stars are closer to the peak of their powers than this version of the Lakers. Like, Gail Goodrich is at such a high level and is the leading scorer for this team, and like West and Wilt are good. I just feel like Mikhail and the depth that I'm getting with this 86 Celtics team is better than the depth that I'm getting. Larry is at such a high level, and then I would come back to these are both great offensive and defensive teams. I think that I prefer the 86 Celtics defense ever so slightly. This is incredibly close, but I think I lean on Boston.
I think I prefer the 86 Celtics offense. Like, I think it translated better to the playoffs. I think they had more real talent on that side of the ball and just a fluidity to how they played the game. And by the way, I don't want to be the guy. I really, really don't want it to sound like I'm like, oh my God, the 86 Celtics, boy, did they play the right way, Logan. That's the greatest team ever, because, you know, you walk a certain line when you start talking that way about a team that had Larry Bird, Scott Wedman, Jerry Seasting, Bill Walton, Kevin McHale, if you catch my drift. But they were actually like a really, really beautiful offense to watch. And it just translated better to the playoffs. Again, we're like, the Lakers actually had a -1 relative playoff offensive rating. Meanwhile, the Celtics had a +5 relative offensive rating in the playoffs and like a +5.5 relative defensive rating. I think the more dominant playoff run, better performance out of their superstars, as you were saying, gives them the nod. This is definitely close. I mean, for God's sake, both these teams have records, right? I mean, the Celtics going 40-1 at home, the Lakers winning 33 straight basketball games. But I do think the offense is a little bit better with the 86 Celtics, and both teams are great in terms of two-way excellence. All right, now we've got the 96 Bulls against the 67 Sixers. Love the 67 Sixers. Can't make an argument.
No, you really can't. It seems we may be on a collision course of sorts.
Yeah, we definitely are. So now we've got the 2017 Warriors against the 86 Celtics. Shout out to the 86 Celtics. But, I mean, there's not even really a conversation to be had here. Like, if you're a 60-something-year-old white guy with a goatee and some cool shades, I'm sure you'd like to have a conversation. But, like, let's be real.
I mean, there's just a completely different level of dominance, I think, between these two teams. It's just too easy. I wish I had like a fake goatee where I could have just like jumped in real quick with my shades and made the case, but I don't.
That would have been sick.
It
would have been sick. I mean, you would have said Larry Bird at 10 isn't far enough. Larry Bird is the greatest scorer,
He is the greatest
player
scorer, passer,
rebounder,
defender, playmaker, player of all time. Nobody could ever do it like Larry.
Steph Curry, soft, weak.
Shit
Kevin
talker
Durant,
of all time.
Soft, weak. Larry Bird would get in their head. Larry Bird would mog them. He would hit them with his alpha jutsu, and they would be completely overwhelmed by his masculine energy. And these modern softies would just not be able to handle that. That's the argument, but it's not a very good one. It's not a very good one. The beautiful game, Celtics, unfortunately, do get bested by the beautiful game Warriors. And now, the inevitable matchup, the number one seeds from their respective sections of the bracket, the two teams with the greatest overall records if you combine regular season and playoffs in NBA history, the two teams with the greatest overall net ratings if you combine the regular season and playoffs in NBA history. Who is it going to be, Logan, between the 96 Bulls and the 2017 Warriors?
I think I'm going to take the 2017 Warriors. I think it is the greatest accumulation of talent in NBA history. The only knock that I could have, and the only thing that I still feel shortchanged about, is the fact that we did not get to see Kawhi Leonard do battle with them in the Western Conference Finals. I mean, that is the only thing that remains to be seen, right? Because, like, the Bulls don't have anything left to prove, right? You can say, oh, they took 2 more games to finish their run, but they took down 2 60-win teams that were at full health, 2 very good 60-win teams. And the Magic and the Sonics, the Warriors had that opportunity against a 60-win team that was great, that I think is one of the best playoff teams that we never got to see materialize and actually battle for anything, that can sometimes get overlooked in this little pocket of history. That Rockets team that took them to 7, that's an all-time great team. I feel the same way about this Spurs team that we just did not get to see with Kawhi Leonard. So unfortunately, that's the only knock that I would say, but I think the 2017 Warriors are just the most talented team ever in basketball. Has never been easier. I don't know what the argument for the 96 team, just how dominant the defense is. Like, if you were going to make that case, what do you think their laurels would rest on?
I think the defense, the 72 wins, I think is probably the biggest thing. Just literally they won more games. And then I guess you would say MJ being the best player, but it is honestly a little bit tricky for me to see, like, even though, again, I mean, some of the metrics will say, like, this is the Bulls. When it comes down to it, when it comes to winning time, like, how do you take anybody other than the Warriors? When you have a lineup that you can play whenever you want that is going to produce, like, a plus 24 net rating and is, like, actually perfect, right? Exists at this perfect cross-section of eras when, like, they are playing old-fashioned bigs off the floor completely, and there isn't this incoming wave of great post bigs like a Jokic and Embiid and what have you who can, like, punish them on the other end. Like, they created the greatest small ball look in NBA history at a time specifically when, like, nobody had the combination of size and skill needed to possibly counter or punish that. So it's just like, we're so fast, we're so long, we're so athletic defensively. We have all the answers on that end. I mean, we're talking about putting Andre Iguodala, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Kevin Durant out there together defensively. And we're the greatest offense you've ever seen, with far and away the greatest collection of shooting talent you've ever seen, with the greatest offensive duo you've ever seen. How do you contend with that?
In this first year, everybody was clocked in and bought in defensively too, in a different way. You could stagger all of the minutes, so you have Steph or KD on the court at all times, so the offense never really suffers. And then, like you said, you can turn to these unstoppable looks. That's kind of the bottom line for me. I think you said it. There's no answer to this test. I'm not saying there was an answer for the 96 Bulls either. That's why they're here, but it's different in so far ahead of their time in a way with the 2017 Dubs.
You took a team that won 73 games and more or less this season, because later they would have to pay something of a tax for getting KD and they would have to compromise depth a little bit. Certainly by 2019, you saw that roster had regressed. This year, more or less, you swap fucking Harrison Barnes and like Leandro Barbosa for Kevin Durant. And that's what's so important to consider. They had one of the best formulas in NBA history, and they added Kevin Durant in the Harrison Barnes role. But this year, I mean, they were still so dominant on both ends without Kevin Durant, Logan. In the Steph and KD minutes together, they're a plus 21 net team. What the fuck? A plus 15 relative offense. Just the greatest offense in NBA history. In Steph minutes without KD, they're a plus 17.5 net team. Like, again, they won 18 of 22 games this year without KD. Like, nobody was going to stop this Warriors machine. Nobody in NBA history has ever been so dominant. And, like, it's not just that you're getting peak versions of KD and Steph. Steph coming off a unanimous MVP season. KD in a position now where he can be his best ever defensively, his most efficiently, where, I mean, he's literally at like 68% true shooting in the playoffs with this massive volume scoring. And Steph is at 28, 6, and 7 on 66% true shooting. You've also got Draymond coming off his career best season, and he's still like clearly at an all-NBA level, and he's still at his athletic peak where he's such a dynamic defensive playmaker and actually something of a threat getting to the rim, and actually shot really well from deep in the playoffs, 41% at decent volume.
With 3.5
while he is this
stocks
brilliant
per game.
passer. Yeah. And then like Klay coming off a year when he led the NBA playoffs in scoring, and now he's just in a year where, like, in the regular season at least, he's giving you peak scoring volume actually, and efficiency and defensive value, and he is still at his athletic peak, right? Could actually get to the rim a decent amount at this point compared to what would happen later. You still have a really good version of Iggy. It's just stupid, dude. It's just stupid. The offensive efficiency, the defensive versatility and dominance, the speed, the skill, the ball handling, the passing, the shooting above all else. I love the 96 Bulls. I think they're incredible, but it's like this big four is unfair. You're talking about two of the three best players on the planet with another two like top 20 guys, top 25 if you're being a little stingy for Klay and Draymond. Like, I just don't think you can ever argue that there's been a better basketball team. I mean, you can argue it, but I'm not going to be convinced by it. You know?
It's the easiest basketball has ever looked for any team ever.
Yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt about that. You get the most efficient possible version of, I mean, especially this Steph and KD combo and the heights of offense that they were capable of reaching.
He was helpless, completely helpless.
The Bulls team. Yeah, yeah. So we agree on that, Logan. The 2017 Warriors reign supreme as the greatest team in NBA history and the winner of our NBA champions bracket. Light 3 hours of potting, Logan. Should we expect anything less? We hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, we would love to run this format back. I think this would be a ton of fun. We can do this with all sorts of NBA and NFL stuff. Believe it or not, we can actually do it even outside of March Madness. We can even do it in the off season. We can do it whenever the hell we want, Logan.
Coming soon.
We are adults and we make the rules and we are our own bosses.
Top 64 screeners in NBA history.
Top 64 wagons in NBA history.
Kyle Lowry.
Top 64.
Yabu.
Yes, great choices, but don't fucking spoil things, Logan. Don't put the cart before the horse here. Yeah, it's an endlessly delightful format. If you guys like it. If you guys are like, I don't want to watch you guys go through 63 matchups for 3 hours. Okay. Hurts our feelings. We liked it, but we get it. You guys are always right. So that's the way it is. Appreciate you all. We've got a couple of guests coming on this week to talk some basketball with us, so that will be fun as we tune up for the playoffs. Still a couple weeks away. And if you want more of our stuff, you know where to find us. All of our full shows are on YouTube. All of our full episodes you can listen to across all audio platforms. You can follow us on social, TikTok and Instagram at NerdSesh, Twitter at Nerd_Sesh. And if you want, you can join our Discord to chat with the gang over there. So with that, as always, appreciate you guys. Let us know where you disagreed, of course. And with that, I've been Carson Brever.
I have been Logan Camden.
And this was Nerd Sesh.